In the month of January, did he pay you?
No.
In the month of February, did he pay you?
I don't believe so.
He promised to pay the babysitter as soon as he got a job.
Did you get paid for March?
No.
Did you get paid for April?
No, ma'am.
January, February, March, April, May. It took you 6 months to figure out that you weren't going to get paid?
Yeah.
Party's on Foreman versus Benvenue. Step forward, please.
19-year-old care provider Jackie Foreman claims next-door neighbor Maurice Benvenue owes her for 6 months of babysitting. Maurice says she never babysat.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 282 on the calendar in the matter of Foreman versus Benvenue. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, please.
Ms. Foreman, according to your papers, the defendant, who was a former friend and neighbor of yours, owes you $5,000.
Yes.
There was a loan, allegedly, that you made to him, but the bulk of the money is for babysitting that you allegedly did for his children.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
He says he doesn't owe you anything. Is that right?
That's right.
So let's go with the big money first. How much do you say he owes you for babysitting?
$4,500.
Now tell me how this babysitting arrangement came about.
Okay, I originally met him a few months before I started babysitting for him because we were neighbors, and he volunteered to give me rides to work, and I became unemployed because the restaurant closed down, and he said he needed a babysitter and he'd be willing to hire me. At first he agreed to pay me $500 a month out of his daughter's disability check, and he was going to get me on a program that would pay me $800 a month from then on.
So in what month did you supposedly start babysitting for him?
In January.
January of this year?
Yes.
Okay, and how many children does he have?
4.
Are they all school-age children?
Yeah, Cassandra's 7, 6, 4, and 3 years old when I started babysitting.
Did they all go to school?
Yes, so we ended up getting the baby in school later on in the year.
When?
We got her, Cynthia, in school about March, I believe.
Now, in the month of January, because you say you started in January.
Yes, that's correct.
Did he pay you?
No.
In the month of February, did he pay you?
No, ma'am.
Did you get paid for March?
No.
Did you work for him in April?
Yes.
Did you get paid for April?
No, ma'am.
When did you stop working for him?
At the end of June. I told him that I could no longer babysit for you because I need money, so I need to start looking for a real job.
It took you 6 months to figure out that you weren't going to get paid?
Yeah. He made it look like he was really trying to get me on this program, and he kept saying, just a couple more weeks, bear with me, come on, and you'll be on this program and you'll be having your money.
What kind of program, Ms. Foreman?
It's a program through welfare that will pay for the babysitter while he works.
But he wasn't working.
No, he claimed that he was looking for a job.
Well, they're not going to pay a babysitter while he's not working.
What I understood was that they would pay even while he's searching for a job.
Miss Foreman, you do not appear as if you are a totally unintelligent woman. I mean, this government is sometimes a little screwy. Mm-hmm. But you've got a man who you say is on welfare with his 4 children. You on welfare with your 4 children, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
This man who's on welfare tells you he's going to pay you $500 a month. So you know he's not working. You know he has no money. You know he gets just enough sustenance to keep himself and his children. Right? Mm-hmm. So where did you think he was going to get this money from to pay you $500 a month until he got on a program?
Because at the time, his oldest daughter, Cassandra, was receiving disability because she's got cerebral palsy.
Her disability is not supposed to go for your babysitting services. Her disability is supposed to go for taking care of her, and she was in school, right?
Yes.
Now, what do you have to say with regard to this babysitting business?
She never babysitted for me. Every time she came over, I just used to let her come over to the house and do her studying. Like she said, give her rides to work. And we became friends, but there was no babysitting. I don't need a babysitter. I'm not working. I'm home all the time.
Why aren't you working?
I got 4 kids from ages 8 to 3.
Where's their mother?
Not at the house.
Where is she?
I'm in the program.
So you're home alone with the children?
Yes.
Well, it sounds to me as if your 4 kids need full-time care, probably some assistance as well. Who are you?
I'm her boyfriend, Your Honor.
Well, step up here. You have something that you think is important?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
My name is Jeffrey Field.
Go ahead.
I came over on a couple times to see how everything was working out, and on a couple of occasions I heard him say that, yes, he was going to pay her $500 a month to babysit for these children in front of me.
Mm-hmm. When did he say he was going to pay her the $500 a month?
He said he was looking for temporary work and that the second he found a job and his first paycheck that he got would go to her.
Fine. He never got a job.
No, he did not.
Well, if he never got a job, then his first paycheck couldn't go to her. Right?
True.
So if somebody said to me, I want you to come and babysit for me, and I'm going to pay you $500 a month as soon as I get a job for my first paycheck, if I listen to those words very carefully, they would mean, if I don't get a job, and if I don't get a first paycheck, you are getting nothing. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. When you leave court today, you can explain it to her. Now let's get to the other part of the money that you say that he owes you. You say you made a loan to him.
Yes, ma'am. I loaned him $624 for some bills that he needed to pay. He didn't have any money at the time because the bills were late. And
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am. My bills are always on time. I get paid on the
You have any
twice
proof of
a
that?
month to take care of all that.
Not of that. I have when I withdrew the money from my bank. But I did open up a phone line in his house, and he agreed to pay the phone bill, and I could make calls on it, and he'd pay for those too. As long as I made the agreement that as long as he paid the bill, then that's fine, because it wouldn't affect my credit. And in July, I shut the phone off, and the final bill was not paid by the defendant. I ended up paying the final bill.
Jackie Foreman says her neighbor, father of 4, Maurice Benvenu, owes her for babysitting and for some loans. He says she never babysat, and any money he borrowed, he repaid.
Ms. Foreman, I don't understand. He doesn't pay you because he has no money. And not only doesn't he pay you, but according to you, you loaned him $624.
Yes, I loaned.
That you have no proof of. Why do you think she would make up this story that she loaned you this money, sir?
Like I said, we were friends, and I used to let her come by the house and study and, you know, play with the kids and everything.
Well, what was wrong with her house?
Well,
Why didn't you stay in your house?
Because he asked me to come over and watch the kids.
no.
So she just liked to come over to your house with the chaos of 4 children?
My house isn't chaos.
Wherever they're... We have 4 kids?
Yeah, but it's not. I got a big backyard. They go out and play and, you know.
Now I'm beginning not to believe you, sir, if you tell me that your house with 4 little children, all under the age of 7, is not chaos. Every house with 4 little children under the age of 7 is chaos. Why did you put the phone in your house, sir?
Because at the time I was giving her a ride to work and school, I didn't have a phone, and that was a way of her getting in contact with me to pick her up.
Mr. Benvenu, does that make sense even to you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense even to you, sir? She doesn't have to put a phone in your house. She can get a pager if you want to she wants to contact you to give her a ride to work. She can come and knock at your door. She doesn't have to put a phone in your house. What, were you conning her or what?
No, conning her.
Huh?
She never gave me nothing. She didn't do nothing for me. I was being a friend to her, to let her come over into my home. The reason she didn't study at her home is because her mother and all the birds and whatever, they were having a conflict. So I was just letting her come over.
Birds?
She's got about 100 birds in her house.
What kind of birds do you have?
I have 7 cockatiels, 12 parakeets, and a finch.
Are they your birds?
3 of them are mine. The rest are my parents.
Let me see the phone bill.
I don't have an actual copy of the last phone bill, but here's some bills.
It's the last phone bill that I need. Not some. But it's the last one that you say he didn't pay.
Right, I ended up mailing the phone company a check, and I have not received the canceled check yet.
listen, Miss Foreman, this is not a guessing game. This is a court. A, the crux of your case is for back babysitting money.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that based upon your testimony, a little of his, but mostly yours, at best there was a contract to pay you for babysitting in the future if he ever got a job. Because that's what he said. He said, when I get a job, I'm going to pay you out of my first paycheck. Right? And he never got a job.
Yes, I realize this
Quite
now.
frankly, I don't really believe either one of you. I might be interested in the phone bill if I could see it, but I can't see it because you don't have it. I can't rule on that. And as far as the $624 are concerned, if you did give it to him, and I have proof not to my satisfaction that you actually gave him this money, it was the dumbest thing that you could have done. Because he was a man who had reneged on what you considered a contract for employment. January, February, March, April, May. Reneged on a contract to pay you, and still you gave him $600. So, I don't believe you, I don't believe him, the case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Unfortunately, the kids will suffer because I became such good friends with their kids, too. In fact, they were calling me mother for a while, calling me mommy.
That's a total lie. My kids never called her mommy. They have their own mother.
I had warned her. I said, look, he might try to backstab you, and obviously he proved that.
And now the next case.
Parties on Montgomery versus Montgomery. Step forward, please.
Administrative Assistant Debbie Montgomery is suing her stepson, Sean Montgomery, 22, for parking tickets. He says she owed him for a gun.
I've read both of your statements, and there are certain things in these statements, certain facts that we say in the trade that can be stipulated. Those facts are as follows. This is your stepson.
Yes.
And you let him use one of your cars.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And while you used that car that was registered in your name,
Yes.
you got parking tickets.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
You acknowledge you got parking
Yes,
tickets.
ma'am, I do.
And you acknowledge that you didn't pay those parking tickets.
No, I don't acknowledge that. Not fully.
You didn't pay the parking tickets when you got them.
Right.
And so penalties built up and all that other kind of good stuff. And your stepmother paid how much for these parking tickets?
$379.96.
Okay, so those are the stipulated facts. Stipulated that if they're your parking tickets, you got them, you didn't pay them. You say you don't have to pay them, and you have a defense. So now I'm going to hear you.
Okay. I gave Debbie $160 for a gun that I was supposed to purchase that my father owned. My father is currently incarcerated right now. And,
This is Debbie.
right. Now, Debbie was supposed to produce the gun to me for $300. I gave her $160 as a down payment. Now, I never saw the gun at any time. I said, give me the gun, I'll give you the rest of the money. But I'm not going to give you the money for the tickets until I see the invoices of exactly what I have to pay. Because I never did see that.
Well, you saw them when you got the ticket.
I saw them when I got the tickets. I never saw...
You keep smiling when you say that, sir.
Is that a bad
Because
thing?
that's a bad thing. Take that as a bad sign.
Okay.
Administrative Assistant Debbie Montgomery is suing her stepson, Sean Montgomery, for parking tickets. He says she owed him for a gun.
You gave her $160 for a gun. What kind of gun was this that you were going to buy?
I believe it's a Smith & Wesson 9mm blue steel.
Were you selling him that gun?
I was going to, yes.
And then you didn't give him the gun?
No, I didn't get the rest of the money.
Okay. So far, you want to work off this $160 for the parking tickets?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's next?
Several times I told her, all you have to do is either fax me, make a copy and mail it to me, exactly what I have to pay, because in the past, I don't know about recently, but in the past, Debbie's had a drug problem with methamphetamine.
Wait a minute.
I'm
Okay.
not interested. Listen to me. I'm not interested in the past.
Okay.
I'm not interested in the
That-
present.
that
It has
was the
nothing to
reason.
do with you. Listen to me, sir. I'm going to jump one step ahead of your logic.
All right.
If you sent her the money for the parking tickets that you owed, and let us assume that based upon what you were about to tell me, because I'm smart, that you were afraid she wouldn't pay the parking tickets with the money you gave her. Is that
Right.
what you were about to tell me?
That's
what you intimated here.
Okay.
That's none of your business because it has to do with her. Has to do with her registration for her car. She wouldn't be able to register the car.
Right.
They'd send out a sheriff for her. They'd put a lien on her house. You know, she might get arrested. But meanwhile, your obligation is finished. Because the tickets are for the car, not for the driver of the car.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that's a lot of baloney that you were just about to tell me and potentially embarrass your stepmother. So I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
Good. Show him the tickets that you paid.
I just have the copies of what they sent me, notices that they weren't paid, and my registration when I had to pay the tickets.
All right. I'm going to look at it.
Thank you.
And the tickets are, the address is right in front of his apartment where he lives.
He's not denying
I'm
he
not
got the
denying
tickets.
that, yeah.
Right.
He got the
Okay.
tickets.
I'm not denying that at all.
Got the tickets. All right, now let me see. Did you see them?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Can I see them, please? Parked in front of a fire hydrant?
I believe so.
Why are you laughing? It's not funny. When you borrow somebody else's car and you get a ticket, you don't take it and throw it in the garbage, but just say, oh, not my ticket. That's something a 16-year-old would do. Maybe if I hide the ticket, nobody will know. Why didn't you pay the tickets when you got them?
At the time, I didn't have the money. That's the main reason why I
Well,
didn't
if
pay.
you didn't have the money, Mr. Montgomery, for the first ticket, see, that I can understand. You got a ticket at 10:03 on the 16th of October. And total due on that ticket with all the penalties for non-payment was $97.94.
Right.
So if you didn't have the money, then you park more carefully. So then a couple of weeks later, you must have been really flush because you parked at a fire hydrant. Suppose you didn't have money then either.
No, ma'am.
And then on the very next day after you got this fire hydrant ticket, you must have really had a lot of money because you parked in the same spot that you parked at first time you got a ticket. And then on November 19th, got another ticket, $97.94 with penalties. You still didn't have any money, right?
That's correct.
What'd you do with the parking tickets when you got them, Mr. Montgomery?
I believe I left them in the car until I gave the car back to Mrs. Montgomery.
Did you find parking tickets in your car?
No, Your Honor.
No, you
He didn't even tell me.
No, you didn't, Mr. Montgomery. I want you to think back a little more clearly, sir. When you got the parking tickets, what'd you do with them?
I took them out of the car when I gave her the car back.
You mean you saved them all?
No, I did not.
What'd you do with them?
I threw them away.
How old are you?
22.
Mr. Montgomery, you got to be more responsible. If you use somebody's vehicle, you're not supposed to act like a teenager.
You're absolutely right.
Good. You're $199.96. Judgment is for the plaintiff. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Hold on, Bird.
Yes, Judge.
I just checked it. Telling me he owes her $219.96.
I'll let him know, Judge.
Thank you.
One night I woke up and he was fondling me.
That is wrong.
A family showdown over a stolen moment in her aunt's house.
Who else was present?
His girlfriend was crying and everything. I didn't want to do that to her. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to make a scene. But there's no way I'm going to let someone sit there and fondle me while I'm sleeping.
Parties on Davis versus Maggard. Step forward, please.
26-year-old animal clinic clerk Amarissa Davis is suing her aunt, 37-year-old roofer Debbie Maggard, for keeping her TV, VCR, and boombox after she kicked her out.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 329 on the calendar in the matter of Davis versus Maggard. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Davis, the defendant is your aunt, who
Yes,
you
ma'am.
say kept some of your property. She doesn't deny she kept your property when she told you to leave her home, and you did rather abruptly with your 4-year-old daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
She says she's keeping your property because you owe her some money. That's the story?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Why were you living with your aunt?
Because I got out of the Air Force the 21st of July, and she told me she was having a very hard time paying the bills, and they were approximately 3 months behind, getting ready to shut off her utilities and phone and everything. So she asked me if I'd come and help her, which I said that I would.
And you were looking for a place to live?
Yes, ma'am. I had the money to get my own place, but I guess I'm too nice when it comes to my family, and I offered to help her. In exchange that she would help me, she would watch my daughter in exchange for me helping her, and we came to a verbal agreement.
Just a second. So your agreement was that you would move in. Were you supposed to pay any rent?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the rent?
$250 rent, $50 utilities, and $100 food, which came to $400 a month, ma'am.
Okay, so you were supposed to give her $400 a month.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was in July.
That was the 22nd of July. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what happened? You lived there July, you lived there in August, something happened in September.
Yes, approximately the end of August. My aunt has a 16-year-old daughter, Chrisanne. Her best friend is also 16, had moved in there too. She has a 22-year-old boyfriend.
That is wrong.
Shh, get to you in a minute, go ahead.
Her boyfriend, one night I woke up and he was fondling me. I told my aunt the next morning. She doesn't recall it. It happened a second time. I told her again. Nothing was done about it. Third time, it happened. I told her, she said, well, confront him. I confronted him. We, went over it for a good couple hours.
Where did you
arguing.
confront him?
I confronted him at my aunt's house in the living room. I confronted
Who else was present?
my aunt, my cousin Chrisanne, and his girlfriend.
Okay.
His girlfriend was crying and everything. I didn't want to do that to her. I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want to make a scene. But there's no way I'm going to let someone sit there and fondle me while I'm sleeping. There's no way. I never made any attempt with this gentleman at all. I've never done that, and my aunt can't say that I have.
Okay, so was it on that evening that your aunt asked you to leave?
Yes, that was the 5th of September.
That was the 22nd of September, because she filed the case on the 23rd of September.
What date was it?
It was the 5th of September because it was on a Saturday. I got paid the 4th of September. I gave her some money out of my paycheck. I gave her money almost every week, which I have it all written down, and I do have a sworn testimony.
So you lived there for between 6 and 7 weeks at your aunt's house?
Yes, I lived there for approximately 45 days, ma'am.
Now, did you have any arrangement with your aunt with regard to babysitting for your daughter?
Yes, ma'am. When I came back from Texas, it was $200 a month to watch my daughter.
Where had your daughter been when you were in the Air Force?
She was with her father in San Diego. She spent 1 week with my aunt from July 14th to the 21st of July. I was in Texas for 1 week when I was on a 30-day leave. And
your agreement was you were going to pay her for babysitting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you say it was how much that she was supposed to pay you for babysitting?
She was supposed to pay me right here. I had her write it out before she left.
Let me see.
She was supposed to pay me $350 a month, regardless how long she was gone, because when she came to my house in April, the 1st of April...
Don't go back to April.
Okay.
Payment arranged for taking care of the daughter starting July the 8th. Well, it seems that she paid you some money that she owed you.
She did pay me some money.
Yes, and it says here to be paid $350.
That is, okay,
To be paid by August the 5th.
Right, okay.
Or as soon as she gets paid from the Air Force.
That's right, because she told me she had not received any money. Okay, well, you can't get money from people that you don't have.
This was 7/8.
7/8.
She owed you $350.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and then she gave me a $189 voucher, which she had gotten previously from the Air Force as a draw on her pay.
Just a second. I see $189. I see that you paid that.
Okay, and I gave her credit.
Just a second. Bottom line is, as of the 8th of July, she owed you $350.
Correct.
Is that right?
No, ma'am. I told her that I give her $250 a month for childcare and then $100 for food.
On this date, you signed a paper saying that you owed her $350. That's what this paper says.
Yes, that was for rectoral.
That's for before. Now, she was there, I don't see more than 6 or 7 weeks. And your agreement for rent was $250?
$250.
How much did she pay you?
She paid me approximately $175 for July. She paid me $70 for August. She paid me nothing for September. She left the last week in September. Okay? I have it all written
She gave you a lot of money for July.
No, she gave me, okay, but that went back to to April 1st, okay? She moved in my house April 1st, okay? Saying that she would only be there 1 week, okay, because she was supposed to be going to boot camp. Well, the 1 week ended up to be 5 weeks because she had a lot of trouble getting into boot camp. She had to recertify 3 times to get into boot camp, okay?
No,
And meanwhile, on the 9th of April, she took her daughter to San Diego with the dad. Before that, when she moved in, we discussed that I would watch the child, okay? So I set all my finances up around that, okay?
Well, I don't know what you're talking to me about. As of July 8th, she owed you $350. What are you going back to April for?
Amarissa Davis, a mother of a 4-year-old, was kicked out of her Aunt Debbie Maggard's home without her TV, VCR, and boombox. Amarissa wants her belongings back. Debbie is countersuing for rent and childcare.
Madam,
yes?
I want you to be quiet and just listen to me very carefully. You gave me a signed note that says, as of 7/8/98, she owed you $350. I don't want to hear anything else about what happened in April or March or February. Nothing.
Okay.
And she lived with you a relatively short period of time, which is how come I don't understand how you come up. Shh.
Okay.
How you come up with a figure that she owes you of $1,500.
I have it right here.
Then let me take a look at it. Which is why you kept her property.
Which is why I kept her property, because when I asked her to move, she said...
Why did you ask her to move?
Because she told me on Thursday evening, Thursday morning, Nikos took her to work, okay?
Who's Nikos?
Nikos is Andrea's boyfriend.
You mean your daughter's friend's boyfriend?
Right, because her car would not start.
So
took her to work. He took her to work, okay? Then I had no way to pick her up, okay? So I asked my friend Mark. I went with my friend Mark. We went and picked her up. Then we went to Chief's. In front of Chief's Auto Parts, okay, for him to buy a battery. In front of Chief's, she tells me, I have something to tell you. I said, what do you have to tell me? If it's about me, I don't want Mark to hear it. She said, it's about me. And so she tells me, Nikos came on to me and all this other stuff. He's been doing all this. I said, Amarissa, why didn't you tell me this? She said, I tried. I said, okay, then. I'll tell you what we'll do. If you feel, she said, I don't want him coming to the house anymore. I said, Amarissa, we have to figure out why he's doing this. And if he's a cheat, then we don't want Andrea to have a cheat. So what we decided we would do, okay, is I told her, I said, we'll let him come back to the house. We'll let him stay another night. I'll sleep right on the couch. If he comes to your bed, you get out of the bed, you come tap me on the shoulder and let me witness him in your bed. Then no one can say that you're a liar. There's 2 people saying he sees you in your bed. It never happened.
Just a second.
Then, okay.
Just a second. So that's what you suggested. You suggested that you let him come back for a night. She sleep in her bed.
Because he said, wait, little girl, you'll know you want me, and go ahead, we'll go ahead, and tonight I'll have you. I'll do the same thing I did. This is what she tells me.
Okay.
Okay, so I said, let him set himself up.
Okay.
It never happened. Okay.
So he didn't do anything that night.
Okay, right, okay, so.
Shh. He didn't do anything that night.
No.
So what happened the next day?
Okay, so she told my daughter, Chris-Ann, the next morning, Saturday morning. And then Chris-Ann told Andrea. And so Andrea asked Nikos, and he said, that's not what happened. I just didn't want to tell you what happened. So then I said, fine. And Marissa came home, and I said, this is bull. I waited Saturday, I waited Sunday, and then I said Monday, I said, this is bull. No one's saying nothing. So I said, Marissa, I decided that if this is the way she was, she knew the rules in the house. She knows that, no, I don't care who comes in the home. You don't come on to no one. She knows whoever is it, you don't touch them. You don't have nothing to do with them. If you feel you're going to, you leave. Get away from them. Okay? Well, I packed all her stuff.
Just a minute, why did you pack her stuff?
Because she didn't pay me no rent. She wasn't paying me. She was stiffing me, okay? I was supposed to been paid for babysitting I babysat in August and from July and August, okay? Instead of paying me, she went and moved to Mark's house for 4 days. And then she got another babysitter that I lined up, okay? That I was gonna get ready to go to work, okay? So I said, Marissa, I said, I have a babysitter that will babysit for both of us, but we're gonna try her out. So while I'm helping Rob with his roof, we'll see if Lisa's gonna work out, okay? And then we sat there and we made an agreement, okay? And then my daughter Heather came over. We were cleaning out the bottom bedroom, preparing for her. And she told my daughter everything, all the agreements, okay? So when it comes to her getting her check and being paid, she didn't pay me, she just changed babysitters. And she was gonna move to Mark's. Then she decided she didn't like Mark, so she calls me on Thursday 4 days later and says, can I come back home? And I said, yes, I never knew you moved.
All right.
Can I explain something to you?
Well, I would hope somebody does. Yes.
From what happened with Marissa and Nico, that happened the night before, and if she was really uncomfortable with him, why did she ask him to give her a ride to work the next day to work?
Excuse me, ma'am. I didn't. I told my aunt a couple times. There was the 2 times that I did tell her previously before Chiefs that she didn't remember me telling her.
Let's say she didn't remember, but you say that he came into the room and he fondled you at night, and the next day you took a ride from him to your job.
I didn't have a way to work. I called my friends. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. She told me, well, if you value your job, if you want to go to work, you'll take the ride.
It's really not important. You left the house. You can't hold her property. All I have to do is, you can't hold her property. You have to give her property back. You have 1 week to do that. Now, how much money did you give her while you were there that you can establish to my satisfaction?
Ma'am, I gave her $200. That was the 22nd of July, sometime in July on Jamie's birthday party. I gave her $150 cash.
She gave me $50.
Just a minute. You gave her $200 on the 22nd
of July. I gave her, that was the check for the SMUD. It was approximately $200.
What's SMUD?
SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District. That's the 180.
SMUD?
That's what they call it, yes. No. That was the $189 that she has down there.
Just a minute. She's already given you credit for that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
I gave her, August 2nd, I gave her $200 cash. That was for Pacific Gas and Electric.
She did not.
Because they were getting ready to shut it off.
She did not give me no money.
You have proof of that?
I do have a witness that has wrote a sworn statement that he has witnessed me do it.
Your Honor, she had no money to give anybody anything because she had not worked long enough to get a paycheck.
Amarissa Davis says her aunt, Debbie Maggard, kept her belongings after she kicked her out for not paying rent.
So according to you, since she moved in, she gave you $245.
That's all she's gave me.
Okay.
Excuse me.
What?
No. I've given her $1,170. I worked for a veterinary hospital in Folsom. I made $12 an hour. I worked 5 days a week. There's no way that I
You have to be able to establish that to me, madam. When you give somebody money for rent, you're supposed to get a receipt.
I know, but I have a checking account in Lackland Air Force
Why would
Base.
she keep your property?
Basically because my sister stole from me and I let my sister get away with it, and she's trying to do the same thing.
That's
my
not
aunt
true.
has
Your
always
Honor,
been
that's
jealous
not true.
of me.
The reason I kept her property is because when I asked her to leave, she came back the next day and I told her when she left, I said, Amarissa, I packed your stuff, just take your stuff now. She did not have room in her car, so I left it in my front living room. She calls me in the afternoon and says, I would like to come over and get my property. I told her, come in an hour and a half because I have to go someplace. She shows up in a half hour. I opened the door. She says, well, what are you doing here? I said, surprise, I didn't go anywhere.
Let me tell you this, Miss Maggard.
Yes.
How old are you?
37 years old.
How old are you?
26, ma'am.
You're her aunt. Are you her mother's sister?
Yes.
Do you speak to your mother?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Do you speak to your sister?
Always.
Okay. So what I don't understand is what this hostility is with your niece.
I don't have any hostility towards her,
But you
okay?
do, I see it.
What I have, okay, is that she moved in and I, out of the gracious of my heart, okay, my gut told me don't do it because she uses everybody. But my heart said she's trying. If she's trying, give her a chance because she's trying.
So then what you do, quite frankly, Miss Maggard, is when
So
you have your sister's child,
and I didn't like it.
When you have your sister's child who has clearly in her life made some mistakes, according to you, and you've tried your best, and whatever it is doesn't work out, what you do usually with family is you say, listen, you have to leave. I'm going to give you a week to find a new place.
I did that.
Shh. Quiet down. Just try to open your ears and listen for a second.
Okay.
Going to give you a week to move out. I can't help you anymore. Whatever it is, I don't want to be angry with you.
I did
Take
that.
You didn't. You kept her stuff.
No, Your Honor, I did
No,
that,
listen
okay?
to me. Miss Maggart, you're not listening. You're talking. You can't talk and listen at the same time.
I'll shut up.
Good. That's what you do to family. You say, didn't do the right thing, owed me money, she's not paying me money, she's got a 4-year-old child. You have other children other than this 4-year-old child?
Yes, ma'am. I have a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter.
Okay, so that there were a lot of things in your 26, 27 years that you probably did that you were not too smart,
Yes,
and maybe
ma'am.
your family has bailed you out more than once. But what you say is to family, I learned my lesson.
And
Not going to help you anymore.
I understand that, okay, until I got served by the marshal, okay, for this suit.
Well, because you kept her stuff.
And I would have gave her her stuff if she would just gave me, okay, I babysat for her. If I would have babysat, she
You're
could
not-
not have worked.
Excuse
You
me,
see what I
ma'am?
mean? You can't do anything. All right.
Okay,
Judgment. Hey, quiet. That's it. Heard enough. The court will prepare an order today that within 5 days of today, accompanied by the marshal or sheriff, you will go and retrieve all of the property that's there. That includes television, VCR, recliner, and a bed. All of her property.
she can have it all.
All of her property.
Every bit of it.
Now, in the few weeks that you were there, and you were there for 6 or 7 weeks, you had an agreement with her that you were supposed to pay for babysitting, you're supposed to pay for food, you're supposed to pay for rent. You have absolutely no proof that you paid her anything. Now, I can't think of any reason, since you both speak to your mother and your sister, so that there is nothing else going on there that would cause this animus, for her to be so angry, except that she feels as if she was used and abused by you.
I tried
And
to fix
there
it
was
between
clearly a
them.
It was over
history.
Nico.
There is really a history with regard to this. I mean, the thing with the boyfriend is stupid.
That's irritating.
I mean, the thing with the boyfriend, quite frankly, is stupid.
That's right.
I don't know why you open up your house to everybody anyway. I mean, I really don't. However, clearly wouldn't have written these things out if there wasn't some problem in the past with
That's
regard
right,
to
and I
money.
made-
So judgment in this case is as follows. All the property returned within 5 days. And, madam, I'm giving you $600 towards whatever money you think that she owes you. But I want you to listen to me very carefully. It's just sad that it had to come to this, because this is not what family does to
That's
each other.
right.
That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
2 18-year-old virgins that were going to lose their virginity live on the internet.
How wonderful.
It was the biggest hoax in the history of cyberspace.
So it wasn't real?
No, ma'am.
And after the 18 days of people watching and panting, nothing was going to happen, because your moral message at the end was, don't just say no to sex.
Exactly.
What an educational tool.
Parties on Tipton versus Smith Hudson. Step forward, please.
45-year-old producer Ken Tipton claims website advertisers Jennifer Smith and Tracy Hudson betrayed him by exposing the internet virgin story as a hoax.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Tipton versus Smith Hudson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Oh, Mr. Tipton.
Yes, ma'am.
This is so interesting. Because I know very little about computers, so I'm sure you're going to explain this to me. According to you, these two ladies who you hired to do some work for you breached a confidentiality clause in a contract,
Yes, ma'am.
resulting in you losing a whole lot of business.
Yes, ma'am.
And very briefly, sir, would you explain to me how the computer hooked up into this?
The internet is like a vast radio system around the world. Back in the 60 years ago when they had the War of the Worlds Hope.
Ah, don't go back years ago.
Okay.
Just tell me what your project was, Mr. Tipton.
My project was an internet website, or what we called an engineered educational event. And what
An engineered educational event that involved, according to your papers, two people having sex for the first time on the internet.
the topic was 2 18-year-old virgins that were going to lose their virginity live on the internet.
How wonderful. What an educational tool. And you were going to produce this.
It was written and produced by me, yes, ma'am.
What do you mean written and produced? So it wasn't real?
No, ma'am. This was a hoax.
So you were trying to fool people on the internet?
Exactly. to watch our show.
And you hired these two young ladies to do what?
To create a controversy, since we had limited funds, by sending out email messages about the topic, which I admit was in poor bad taste, much like the Kenneth Starr report. But what we did was, the content of the website was a positive message about safe sex, AIDS awareness, and abstinence. And that was the show.
So
we hired these two ladies to send out email messages letting people know about this. And that would cause a controversy, and the media, doing what the media does, picked it up. And it quickly became one of the top websites in the world.
So they did what they were supposed to do.
Yes, they did do, according to the contract, they sent out a portion of the emails they said they would.
And then what happened?
Then they broke the agreement by telling another company precisely what we had hired them to do, and that broke the confidentiality agreement.
They told another company that what, according to you?
I received a phone call on July 21st from Jennifer.
Who's Jennifer?
She was very upset because there had been a lot of things in the media because the hoax had been exposed by this other company we had gone with. They told this company that they had done emails for us that started the controversy. She admitted this to me. She admitted that she got paid $5,000 for it, and that was in breach of our confidentiality agreement.
So then what happened with your sex program?
The sex program was eventually put up and is still on the website now, the entire show as it was designed.
So it's there?
The show is there.
So how were you damaged?
Well, for one thing, they profited by breaching the contract, which says in our contract that they can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And by exposing the hoax before the show was done, like you had that reaction that, oh my God, they're putting virgins on the internet. No, that was the hook to get people to watch the show.
That wasn't my reaction. Don't try to read my reaction.
Okay,
my reaction, quite frankly, Mr. Tipton, was it's wonderful to use the age of computers for education, as you indicate. I somehow doubt, sir, that your motives were educational when you put this piece together.
There were many motives.
Money was the first one.
No, ma'am.
You mean teaching people about safe sex was your motive, to have
That
people
was
watch,
second.
to have people watch two people having sex on the internet?
Well, they weren't going to do that. So they were going to follow this story for 18 days, and they would learn things about AIDS that they didn't know.
So you were going to have them watch this story. Hopefully, at the end of the story, they were going to see these two people at the end having sex.
No, they would abstain at the end.
Just listen to me.
Okay.
What you wanted was for them to watch your website for 18 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Which would bring in revenues for you. Somehow.
In some way, shape, or form, yes.
Right. And after the 18 days of people watching and panting, waiting for the ultimate moment to happen.
Exactly.
Nothing was going to happen because your moral message at the end was, don't just say no to sex.
Exactly. You always have the choice to change your mind.
Who's speaking?
First of all,
You are?
I'm Tracy Hudson,
Tracy Hudson.
Jennifer's partner.
Okay. So, let's hear.
Okay, first of all, as to his motive for the website, you were actually correct. I don't know if you're allowed to see
Miss
this or
Hudson.
not.
I never doubted for a moment that
Okay.
Mr. Tipton's motives were altruistic.
Okay, but here, if you want this is an email from Mr. Tipton to Jennifer. Say, when he first came up with the idea wanting us to do the work for him, and right here it says, I have an idea about how to raise money to finance the making of my movie, but I would have to do bulk email to let people know about the internet service that I'm offering. Are you opposed to sending out adult-oriented emails? And at the end, I know this sounds weird, but the bottom line is to get this movie made. His motive was to finance his movie.
Did you write that?
Yes, ma'am, and that is completely true.
Okay.
Good.
And now I'll let Jennifer take over because she spoke with Ken.
Go. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Did you, in fact, have a contract with him?
No, we did not.
Well, Mr. Tipton, you said that was a contract. Can I see a copy of the contract, please?
Yes, ma'am.
What he's showing you is a... I'm sorry.
Tell me what he's showing me. I'm really good at figuring it out.
Okay.
This is the contract.
Yes, ma'am.
That you say they breached.
Yes.
Which forms the basis of your lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Tipton.
Yes, ma'am.
They didn't sign it.
It was faxed back to them. They didn't return it.
No, it
Did
was
you
not.
They didn't sign it. You signed it.
Yes, ma'am. And I faxed it back to them.
Right. Okay. Well, whether you faxed it back to them or you didn't, or you hand-delivered it or you messengered it to them, this is not an executed contract.
Ken Tipton says website workers Jennifer Smith and Tracy Hudson betrayed him by exposing the Internet Virgin story as a hoax.
This is not an executed contract because they did not execute it. But unless you tell me that there was a verbal agreement with regard to confidentiality, something that you do not mention, by the way, in your papers, they could not breach a contract, either verbal, certainly not written, because there is no written contract. Now, was there a verbal agreement with regard to confidentiality, or did you just ask them to send out the email?
No, prior to that agreement, we had a verbal agreement as well as my own confidentiality agreement that they did not want to sign because it did not take into account their work for hire stuff.
What I'm asking you, sir, is when you asked them to perform this service for you, you asked them to send out the email and you were going to pay them.
Yes, ma'am.
How much were you going to pay them?
For a total of 16 million emails, $6,000, if the website was successful.
If the website was successful?
Yes, ma'am.
And what if it was unsuccessful?
Then they didn't get paid, as it says in the contract.
That's what it says in this unsigned contract.
The contract that I believed I had with them, yes.
I may have believed you had with it, but I wouldn't sign a contract that said if I did the work and if you weren't successful in getting the website up, they wouldn't get anything.
Well, they also got a part in the movie, which is in the contract.
That you weren't going to be able to finance unless the website was successful.
Exactly.
Don't you understand, Mr. Tipton? Let's follow this logically,
Okay.
sir. You couldn't do the movie unless you got the website going.
Right.
And unless you made money on the website.
Right.
So let's see how smart you are. Because what you're suggesting is that you were really smart and that if they signed this, they would have been really dumb. Because what you're saying is, I need the money to make my movie. If I don't get the money, I can't make my movie. I will pay you $6,000 if I'm able to get the money to make my movie through the successful website.
Yeah, exactly.
If I don't make money on this website, I'm not going to pay you the $6,000, but you're going to get a part in the movie. Is that what you're telling me?
Eventually, if I ever
Well,
find it.
not eventually. That doesn't say eventually in here, I'm sure. It does say, but if I don't get the money to make the movie through the website, then you will get a part in the movie, and I will complete that sentence, that I can't make because I didn't get the money because I didn't have a successful website. This is a work for hire.
Yes, ma'am.
And potentially they were going to end up with nothing. Why didn't you sign this?
Because we had sent it over to him for his review, and he never did fax it back to us, and everything was rolling along very fast at this point. We started doing the work on July 10th, and we didn't fax the contract over to him until July 13th. And by the end of the week,
you started doing the work before.
Yes.
Before the 13th of July.
Yes.
When he, in fact, says that he signed this thing.
Right.
The bottom line, Jennifer talked to Ken, what day was it that you talked to him?
On July 15th.
What happened on July? What happened with this phone conversation
Okay,
that you had with him?
on July 15th, I spoke to Ken on the phone, and he was very happy with the work that we'd done. Everything was progressing as it was supposed to. The story had gained national coverage at this point, and he had expressed his concerns to me about not having a confidentiality agreement with me, asked me, kind of jokingly, not to call the National Enquirer and break his story. And he told me at that point that we, when it was over, when it was finished, when there was nothing more, that to go ahead and do what we wanted with it, tell whoever, whatever we could get from it.
When it was over.
Right.
And what he's not representing to you is that the company that we did sell information to broke the story on July 17th. It was national news. It was in the press, the news wires. They did a press release. His whole thing came out.
It all came
on the
apart.
17th.
On the 17th.
Yes.
We didn't even talk to that company until July 20th.
Right.
Now, is it true that the story broke on the 17th?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what conversations did you have with the 20th that inspired this company to pay you $5,000?
All we did was give them backing that the allegations they made against Mr. Tipton, to the best of our knowledge, were correct, that their accusations were not false. That's all we gave them.
And we didn't even actually sell the information on the 20th. That was just the first time we spoke to them about selling them the information. We didn't sell them the information until the following week.
How did they come to you? Do you know?
We actually talked to them first.
You called them?
Yes, we did.
Did their dates sound correct, Mr. Tipton?
The dates sound correct, yes.
Mm-hmm. So the story that your website soap opera was a hoax broke on the 17th.
Yes, ma'am.
They merely confirmed with the press that the information that they had was accurate.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's hard to put a genie back in the bottle anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay them any money to do the letters?
No.
Why not?
Because it was all stipulated in the contract how they would be paid.
Well, why don't you tell me about it, since I find that there is no contract?
Well, the way
Because they have a counterclaim.
I understand. The way we had discussed it with the confidentiality and everything was that as I gained money from either selling the screenplay of the entire internet hoax or made money by selling email mailing lists and things like that, that they would be paid out of the proceeds.
So your program is still ongoing. How come you haven't paid them anything?
Because we have no money whatsoever has been made on it. In other words, the show is there for people to see what it was supposed to be about AIDS awareness, safe sex, and abstinence. If someone would take the time to actually read the story. The hook was in bad taste. The story was not.
Ken Tipton claims Jennifer Smith and Tracy Hudson owe him for betraying his internet virgin story as a hoax. They are countersuing Ken for not paying for their work.
You anticipated making $6,000 from this, is that right?
Yes.
You made $5,000, right?
Right. But on a separate deal.
Well, I understand that you're in business, and I think that we both sort of deserve each other, because you're playing sort of loose and free with what is, if you understood that there was a verbal agreement between the two of you. There was no written contract with regard to confidentiality, but there was a verbal agreement, according to you, and according to you, that once this story broke, then you were free to sell it. Well, the fact that somebody reports it, they evidently wanted confirmation as reasonable journalists that what they were reporting was accurate. And since you were people who contacted them in order to give them the information that what they had in the pipeline was absolutely accurate, you were able to verify that, they were able to push the story, and he had absolutely no recourse whatsoever against them because it had been confirmed by two of his subcontractors, if you want of another word.
And they were also his subcontractor.
Whatever.
Okay.
He had evidently not shared with these people who you contacted that this was all a hoax.
Yes, ma'am, I had. That's why they called to confirm it with them.
You had shared it with them?
Yes, ma'am.
So how did they damage you in any way?
They damaged I was under the impression I had a contract.
No, how did they damage you? If you already told the people that it was a hoax.
Yes, ma'am.
How did what they did by saying we sent out the emails, how did that damage you?
In no way.
In no way?
If I have no contract, then I have no damage. If you agree that that contract was not in force.
Then you have no damage. Oh, good, I'm glad we got to that. Tested my mettle. So then if you have no damage, your lawsuit is dismissed. Now, let's get to you. You did some work. Did you feel as if when you discussed this matter of sending out the emails that you might have done something to hurt the project?
No.
Absolutely not.
No, it was already, the damage was done. There was no more damage to be done at that point.
Except confirmation of what he had already told them?
Right.
Okay.
Or what they already knew. I'm not sure who told them what, when, but yes.
Okay. And you did the work and you were not paid?
Right.
What was your agreement with regard to payment from him?
We did have an agreement with him that we would be paid $6,000 once the site started making money. We were first on the list to be paid.
Just a second.
But
so your agreement with him was not for $6,000. Your agreement was for $6,000 if and when the website started to make money.
No.
That's just what you told me.
No. It was when, not if and when. Now, I know you're going to say that's the same thing.
That's the same thing. When the website started to make money, you would be paid your $6,000.
But how do we know when that is? He could have made a fortune off this. We have
don't
no
know
way.
if he made money or not.
We have no way of knowing.
He says he's not made any money. He says because this thing all broke, the website did not produce any revenues. Is that what you're telling me, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't have subpoenaed books and records. I have to accept what he says, that he didn't make any money. And quite frankly, Ms. Smith and Ms. Hudson, I don't feel badly because for your work, you got $5,000. You got $5,000 one way or another, so you're not exactly not left whole as a result of this project. See what happens when you try to scam, when you try to do things that aren't 100%. It always comes back to haunt you. You want to say something to me, Mr. Tipton? Just say no. Which was the message of your website.
Exactly.
Right. Perfect. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
So far, the only person that got a free trip was you.
She offered her friends a free Mexican vacation, but they got stiffed on the bill.
That's your fault.
I feel very badly. I have tried. You have no idea how much I've tried.
Well, you're going to try harder, because even if you have a problem with making the arrangements and not reading the small print and everything else, Ms. Guerra, that's your problem.
I agree.
Well, good. Then what are we doing here?
All parties on Lang versus Guerra. Step forward, please.
36-year-old homemaker Sandy Lang claims furniture store owner Lizette Guerra promised her an all-expense-paid vacation to Mexico. Sandy says the trip ended up costing her thousands. She wants Lizette to pay.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 345 on the calendar in the matter of Lang versus Guerra. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have seats, please.
This is the case of the free trip that ended up costing you $3,800. Right?
A little more than that.
You, at the time of this whole experience, were dating the plaintiff's brother?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You work in some capacity where you got some free trips to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And you invited your boyfriend?
Yes.
Where is he, by the way?
He's...
Ex-boyfriend?
Yes. Can I clarify?
His sister-in-law and brother, to go along on this totally paid-for trip, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, why don't you tell me what happened when you got there?
It started at the airport. They needed $407.12 for Carlos, her cousin, plane fare. So I put that on my credit card because we were already running late, and she said, I'll take care of it. I'll call Alaskan Airlines.
So Carlos needed $407.
At that point, ma'am, they decided to go ahead and pay for it. I wish they wouldn't have, so I could have...
What were you going to do with Carlos if they didn't pay?
He would have had to probably stay. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, he would have gone with this. I don't know.
Right. So you took Carlos along, and so far it cost you $407. You're not even in the sun yet.
This is true.
So what happened when you got there?
I went down to the pool and ordered some food and drink, and at that point they said I couldn't charge it to the room. So I said, can you hold it for a minute and I'll go and talk to Lizette. And I went up to her room and she said, I'll take care of it. Go back down and it'll be just fine. I went back down and they said, no, it's not fine. I put it on my card. And the rest of the trip was the same way. Nothing could be charged.
So for all the food and drinks, you put on your credit card?
Or paid cash.
Or paid cash. So then what happened?
It came time to leave, and they wouldn't let Bob and Lizette go. They said they had some unresolved payment.
You were stopped at the airport, according to you.
No.
Where were you stopped?
The party left, our group left, and Bob and I were running behind. We went to the taxi. As soon as we sat in a taxi, the security from the hotel came out and said that we had an outstanding balance that we had to take care of. And at that point, we spoke to the manager of the hotel, and he said that, and I explained to him, I said, this is an all-inclusive package. It includes the drinks and everything. Anyhow, he said, no, not at this hotel. It does not. Bob, my ex-boyfriend, has a heart condition. So at that point, that's when I believe Sandra Lang or his family went ahead and paid for that outstanding balance. So mainly Bob can get home because he does have a severe heart condition.
And how much was the outstanding balance?
$3,802.
$3,802 plus $407.
Plus the $407.12 for the airfare.
So, $4,207. They said it was free. So far, the only person that got a free trip was you.
No, not quite. Not quite. I have so far, the flight tickets came out to about $7,000. The next step was when Bob and I were looking at the brochure. We were going to stay at the Resort Nuevo Vallarta. That was the original reservations. That's when it included the unlimited meals, snacks, theme nights, you know, domestic and imported drinks, everything. Well, Bob and I were looking at all the pictures, and we thought, oh, this hotel looks nice. We then called again Alaskan Airlines on August 31st and changed hotels. We missed the small print that says here all-inclusive. It did not have all-inclusive on it. When I called Alaskan Airlines, we still stayed in the package department. They never switched over to the air only.
When you say we, who made the calls?
Well, at the time, I made the calls. And
okay,
I spoke
so
to
you made the calls?
Yes, I did.
Now, how are you getting these free trips?
My friend had planned a trip for his salespeople. At that point, he could not go on this sales trip. It's a sales team. Anyhow, it was Labor Day weekend. It was non-refundable, so he gave them to me to take my kids.
How many people?
I believe it was a party of like 10 people. I'm not sure, 8 or 10.
Okay, and he gave you some kind of voucher or something?
Yeah, we had vouchers and everything, yes.
Had vouchers.
And the vouchers never changed because it was a last-minute change because he had to cancel. It was electronic, so we never really got paperwork that showed there was changes like all-inclusive and non-inclusive.
That's not their fault.
I agree.
That's your fault.
I feel very badly.
No, you feel very badly. You have to compensate them. They weren't planning on going on a weekend. And if you have a problem, if you think that you had a problem with the hotel, if you have a problem with Alaska Airlines, then you have to deal with that.
I have tried. You have no idea how much I've tried.
Well, you're going to try harder because right now you're going to give us some money. And then you can go against Alaska Airlines. I mean, somebody invites you to go on a free trip. But you weren't planning to go to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico.
No.
Your Honor.
And they certainly weren't planning on taking another couple with them that they also paid for, right?
That's correct, Your
And they
Honor.
weren't planning on taking you. You're not even with the brother anymore.
That's correct.
Right?
That's
well.
Correct.
So if you have a problem with the airlines, and if you have a problem with the all-inclusive, and if you have a problem with making the arrangements and not reading the small print and everything else, Ms. Guerra, that's your problem.
I agree.
Why do you? Well, good. Then what are we doing here? Now, let's get to your counterclaim. You got a counterclaim here because you say that you've been the subject of harassment.
Yes, Your Honor.
But your statement says, Ms. Guerra, ever since this happened, someone has been calling and leaving very scary messages on my machine, threatening my life and my children's lives.
That's correct.
And it says here, the guy who kept calling referred to himself as hired by the Langs. So I'm going to ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
You got this tape that you said you wanted me to listen to?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can play it over there.
Sent Monday, September 21st at 10:11 p.m.
Just a message for Lizette. Lizette, you got till 9:30 tomorrow to contact Sandy or Terry Lang. I understand you got a serious problem that needs to be attended to immediately. And if you want any type of salvation on this matter, without any type of repercussion, you deal with this thing, you deal with it now, okay? Well, I'll deal with you, and you're not going to, you ain't going to dig it. You ain't going to dig it at all. You need to get $4,000 together, so right now, girl, you got till tomorrow morning, because you and all your kids will be gone. They'll be gone. Have a pleasant night. Bye.
Sandy Lang says she was charged thousands for an all-expense-paid vacation to Mexico. She wants Lizette Guerra to pay. Lizette is countersuing over life-threatening phone calls.
Somebody asked from your side this person to call her to get this money, you need not answer me, because by answering me, you are acknowledging that you were an accomplice to the commission of a crime. Do you understand that?
I don't even know that person, Your Honor. I have no idea who that is.
Why would somebody, out of the blue, call her for $4,000, which is the exact amount of money that is owed, unless that person was in some way connected with this case?
Or connected with her. I have no doubt that she would have a friend of hers make the phone call purposely for a countersuit. There's no reason for any friend, relative, anyone that I know to make a call like that.
That is sick.
I wouldn't instigate that. It's beyond my apprehension. I have no idea.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Prior to all this, I received many calls from Ms. Sandra Lang. They went on. Nothing as ugly as the one you just heard, but.
So did you receive calls from Ms. Lang both before and after you got this call?
Yes.
Just
yes,
a second.
Your Honor.
So you received phone calls from her either both before and after this obnoxious call?
Your Honor. Yes,
is that
Your
right?
Honor.
Well, then,
Your Honor.
Then that suggests to me that she wouldn't resort to this. She was taking care of it herself.
Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Yeah.
I have a note that she's admitting to owe the money that she signed. This is dated September 19th.
Let me see.
Plus, there was phone calls from Mexico. It adds up to $4,752.23.
However, you signed a note with her for $3,874, right?
Yes.
Okay. She entered into an agreement with you folks that you were going to go on a trip. It wasn't going to cost you any money. It wasn't a trip that you were planning. You invited other people to go with you. You ended up paying for everybody else. And there's no question that Ms. Guerra believes that there was some sort of a problem with miscommunication with Alaska Airlines or with the booking agent, with not reading the fine print, all of which has absolutely nothing to do with you.
But Bob did see this. Bob is the one that chose this hotel. After we had made the change with the people, we were looking at the brochure together, and that's when we saw this hotel. There's pictures of it.
Doesn't make any difference. You changed the hotels. You were
with
under...
Bob being aware of making the change. He saw all-inclusive, I'm sure.
The $3,800 was for what? Just food and drink? Or for the hotel room?
The hotel room, I believe, and food and drinks.
Right. They were you know, the truth of the matter is, they might even say, well, we can absorb some of the food because you have to eat even if you're home. But as far as the room is concerned, as far as everything else is concerned, you know, Carlos, their room, they're not responsible for that. But ultimately, you promised them a free vacation. The only one who got a free vacation was you. You signed the note for $3,874.
Plus interest.
You'd be lucky to get your $3,874. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,874. And Ms. Guerra, let me tell you something about the harassment. It is possible that somebody from their side caused this person to call you and make threats for the money. Certainly, I don't approve. As a matter of fact, I hardly disapprove of these kinds of threatening tactics. I think that they are disgusting. But I'm not satisfied that Ms. Lang was responsible for them because she had been having ongoing communication with you both before and after you got these phone calls. So clearly she wasn't relying on anybody else to do her dastardly deed for her. She was trying to take care of the business herself. So your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
I think that Bob and I should have paid for it half and half. We both made the mistake by choosing a different hotel.
She wasn't going to pay it. She had no attempt. There was no attempt made to pay this.
Don't ever invite strangers on a vacation.
Justice is served.
Yes.
And now the next case.
Parties are Huckabee versus Harris. Step forward, please.
25-year-old Latrice Huckabee says her attorney, 32-year-old Wendy Harris, didn't do her job in family court. She wants her money back.
Miss Huckabee, are you ready for me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. You had a lawsuit pending in which court?
Long Beach Municipal Court.
This lawsuit against the defendant is that you hired her to represent you. You retained her as a lawyer to represent you in a case that you had pending.
Yes.
And you want your $500 back, the $500 that you paid her because you didn't like her service. Right?
Yes.
How did you find her?
I found the defendant through Mercury Paralegal. I paid them to do all the paperwork regarding the case. And then they instructed me that Ms. Harris could represent my case because they couldn't come to court with me. I needed someone to present my case for me.
So you went to Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Did you have another court date after you went to Ms. Harris?
Yes.
And what happened at that court date?
At that court hearing, Ms. Harris arrived at 9:30 to 9:45, and we had to be put on second call because she wasn't there when we were called.
Okay, that sometimes happens. So she was late, but she got there about 9:30.
Yeah.
Okay. And did she remain with you in the morning?
She stayed from 9 to 12.
Okay. And then they said, everybody go and come back for lunch.
At 1:30.
And at 1:30, did she come back?
She had to be called back. I called her because she did not show up. She was not there when the court came back in session. I had to call her twice.
And what time did she come back?
She came back at 1:30.
When she was told to come back?
Yeah, she came back at 1:30.
Okay, so the court told her to come back at 1:30. She came back at 1:30, but you were there before 1:30. You didn't see her, so you called her. That's what you just told me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Then what happened?
The whole time that when she came at 9:30, I had been trying to talk to her about the case or go over the case. She would not speak to me in the courtroom. She would not speak to me at all. I called her numerous times. She would not return any phone calls.
Did she ever return your call?
Never.
Latrice Huckleby wants money back from attorney Wendy Harris for not doing a good job. Wendy says she did her job.
Did you receive phone messages from her?
There was phone messages that were received prior to me even being retained as an attorney. If indeed she wanted me as her attorney, she needed to retain me. And upon her retaining me, then I would return her phone calls. I left word with my secretary to contact the plaintiff to tell her to come in and sign the declaration, which was subsequently signed. And
So
I
she
filed
did come in?
Yes, she did.
You got that call? Did you go in and sign something in the office?
Yes, we signed it.
Let me see what you signed.
But the declaration was originally, everything was done through Mercury Paralegal.
That has nothing to do with her. That has nothing to do with her. Was this prepared by anyone other than yourself?
No, Your Honor, I prepared it myself.
Was this prepared from notes as a result of a conversation that you had with her, or from anything else?
Prepared from notes, plus prepared from numerous pages that the plaintiff had written, plus a transcript from a prior proceeding, which I had to read through. And
but it wasn't prepared from any other documents
No,
that
Your
were
Honor.
furnished to you?
No.
Listen.
Yes.
She transcribed not only information she got from you, but from those notes and a transcript of a prior proceeding. You had a transcript of a prior proceeding?
Yes.
And she prepared a very lengthy document.
Yes.
Look, Ms. Huckleby, this document alone, and going through that file, which I see has your notes in it, correct? Yes. That alone is worth $500. Then she came and spent several hours in court with you. This lady earned her $500.
But how is that? When
How is that? I just explained it to you. Nothing offends me more than a lawyer who doesn't do work for money. Believe me, and believe me, I'd be down her throat in a flash if I felt that she took advantage of you and didn't do work for the money that you paid her. But just because you paid her the $500 didn't mean your case was going to be resolved that day.
I know that it wasn't going to be resolved that day.
Of course.
But she wasn't on time, so we could get it out and get it over with.
No, come on, listen to me. If she's not on time, because she came at 9:30, you think you should get your $500 back?
Basically.
Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's everybody who's fired has mental anguish.
I did everything for Mr. Ray. I cooked, I cleaned.
You knew this man for 1 week.
She babysat for a week, but hoped it would last a lifetime.
You stand there like a crybaby and say to me, I have mental anguish. What mental anguish?
What mental anguish?
What mental anguish?
He wanted to have sex with me, and I refused.
Oh, you're full of baloney.
All parties on Turner versus Rhea. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Tony Turner claims Stephen Rhea, 45, wrongfully fired her as a live-in housekeeper. Stephen is countersuing for theft and making terrorist threats.
All rise. Order in the court, please. Your Honor, this is case number 313 on the calendar in the matter of Turner versus Rhea.
Thanks, Bird.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Please have seats.
Ms. Turner, I've read your papers. It appears that you were hired by the defendant as a live-in housekeeper and nanny for his children. And after some period of time, you were fired. You want to be compensated for that. Mr. Rhea has a cross-complaint because he said after you were fired, you purposely destroyed some of his property. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, Ms. Turner, I would like you to tell me why you think that you have a cause of action here. Did you have an employment contract?
Well, Your Honor, it wasn't an employment contract. What it was for me to live in with him. We were supposed to share everything equally. I have a young daughter. I was supposed to move in with Mr. Rhea so he can go to work. During the day, I was supposed to watch his son. And during the night, if I wanted to get a job or go back to school, he would watch my daughter. That's how the situation was supposed to be. It was a split, equal situation, the whole thing.
You mean you weren't paid any salary?
I was not paid, no.
So, you answered an ad in the paper?
Correct, ma'am.
Did you speak to Mr. Rhea when you responded to the ad?
No, I spoke to his daughter, Tammy.
That's you. Do you have a copy of that ad?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. It says live in, M parent, that's male parent, that's you.
Yes.
Seeks a female parent, that's you. To take care for 3-year-old and share cooking, cleaning, must be clean and stable. All right, and no salary was discussed.
No salary was discussed, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So that she was going to live in, rent-free, have her food, utilities, phone, and everything else paid for. In exchange, you were going to help take care of the house, and you were supposed to provide care for her child. You have one child?
Correct.
How old?
She just turned 1.
If she wanted to work in the evening. Was that the arrangement?
Correct.
Okay. And it didn't work out?
No. Well, when I talked to Tammy, I called the ad on a Tuesday. I called again on a Wednesday because on the voicemail it was a female's voice, so I thought the ad got filled. I didn't know it was her car phone. I called her again Wednesday. We talked. We arranged to meet that day on Wednesday. She came out and she explained to me the situation between Mr. Rhea and his ex-wife. She said that he needed someone to move in with him to take care of Tony because he needed to go back to work and daycare was too expensive. She said, when you move in, everything will be like a family. You're like a family. You're part of the family. We have cookouts, we have vacations. You're automatically invited. I was like, okay. She was like, yeah, we go to Jamaica, this, that, this, that. You're
all right, so it was going to be a more informal arrangement with no salary.
Correct.
Fine, but it didn't work out. How long were you actually there?
I was there for, Your Honor, for 9 days, 10 days.
9 or 10 days, relatively short period of time.
Correct.
And what happened in that 9 or 10 day period?
Well, the night I went and moved in with Mr. Rhea, they were telling me over and over again not to be nervous, to relax, that if I wanted to do anything, I could. You know, they gave me the keys to the car. If I wanted to go out, I can go out. I stayed with them Monday through Friday. I did everything with the kids, whatever. Friday night, I wanted to take my daughter to her, godmother's house to visit. I went out. I came back around 11 o'clock. I went upstairs to talk to Mr. Rhea and let him know I was home. And I went in there and he's like, Tony's got a fever. That's his young son. I was like, okay. And he's like, and Tammy's coming to pick you up tomorrow. It's not going to work out. I was like, what do you mean? I don't want to talk about it. She's going to come pick you up and move you back to your mom's house.
Okay, let me stop there. What happened during that week, sir, that suggested to you that this arrangement wasn't going to work out?
Well, when we had talked to her originally, she's supposed to know that I expected somebody to be clean, somebody that could cook, somebody that knew how to swim. I have
Why
a 16
swim?
by
Why was-
32-foot pool that my son loves. He's been swimming since he's been a year and a half.
Okay.
And if the weather is nice, he's going to go into the pool.
Okay.
All right, so that was the main concern there. If he was to go in or fall in, you know, to where somebody could go ahead and come to his aid. In this case, she could not. And as far as the cooking, she was good at going at McDonald's or buying something from the store, you know, already just about prepared with directions on how to, you know, do it, throw it in the oven or whatever. The cleaning, I had to mention to her about the front bathroom, which was hers and her daughter's, about the rings in the tub. There was a high ring and there was a low ring. And I didn't feel
You
like
weren't
that.
satisfied.
No, not at all.
So you told her that it wasn't working out.
Correct.
Did you give her any sort of notice when she was going to have
No,
to leave?
that's when the police came over to the house a few times. And they
Why?
informed me, well, because I called, you know, I wanted her out of the house. And
Well,
that's
just
when
a
I
minute,
was
why would
informed.
Let me stop you. If you told her it wasn't working out, why didn't you just leave?
When I asked him, because I told him, I said, Mr. Ray, I said, Stephen, how can you just tell me that Tammy's coming to pick me up tomorrow? You know my mother's renting out my room. I can't go back and live with her. Well, that's not my problem. I was like, what do you mean it's not your problem? And throughout the week, Tammy, when we got interviewed, Tammy told me that if I wanted to get a job or go back to night school, I could, or go to night school, I could. Throughout that week I was with Mr. Ray, I asked him if, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get a job so I can get some money. Oh, don't worry about it. Stay a couple weeks. Get familiar with the house. I was like, okay. The next day I would say something else. There was a paper sitting there. I was looking at the paper. I got up to get something. He threw the paper away. He did not want me to get a job for any reason.
Ms. Turner, it wasn't working out.
Right.
You didn't have an employment contract with him.
Right.
He has a young child, and he's allowed to say, for whatever reason, I'm not comfortable. You understand that?
Well, I went through all...
So, I'm going to come back to it. Why were the police called? Because you refused to leave?
No, I went through the whole situation with him asking that questions. I said, well, Mr. Ray, fine, I'm going to take you to court. When he said he didn't care. He said, you're going to take me to court? You're going to take me to court? He came at me and rushed at me. He pushed me. I said, okay, fine, I'm going to call the cops. I went downstairs, got the phone. I called the cops. He called the cops on his other phone. The cops came out there. That's why they came out there.
Okay. Why were the police called again?
The police were called out there because, number one, she would barricade my bedroom door, wouldn't allow me to go out, and as far as attacking her, that is an all-out lie. She would push on me.
I have
now, what I
scratches, Your Honor,
did
to
do,
prove it.
what I did do was try to get by the door and turn sideways, okay, with the door casing to my face. And this is her so-called attack.
Tony Turner says she was hired by Stephen Rea as a live-in housekeeper. She is suing for wrongfully firing her. Stephen is countersuing for destruction of property and making terrorist threats.
Ms. Turner, you do not have a cause of action because you do not have a contract. Just as, Ms. Turner, if you went to his house and you found that his house was a pit, dirty, disgusting, not a safe place for your daughter, you would have the absolute right to say to him, I'm leaving. Listen to me. You would have the absolute right to say, I'm leaving. Or if he turned out to be the kind of person that you couldn't live with because he was mean, nasty, irascible, whatever, you had an absolute right to leave. Similarly, without some sort of a formal living or formal contract of employment that says...
It was verbal, Your Honor.
No.
No, when I moved in there with him, my mom called me actually, it was the first night I was there. She asked me when I was going to come out and get the rest of my stuff. My mom was renting out my room. He's like, oh, it looks like you're going to have to stay here. I was like, whatever. Okay, Your Honor, I was there. I did everything for Mr. Ray. I cooked, I cleaned. It was supposed to be a shared situation.
Turner.
The reason why I'm filing this lawsuit, Your Honor, is because he got me in a situation where I had nowhere to go. I have a young daughter that I had to take care of, and I had to call someone because the second night the cops were called out there, he made an accusation saying that I was going to burn his house down. I never said anything like that whatsoever.
Miss Turner, you're not following me. You knew this man for 1 week. He is not family. He is not, listen to me, he is not related to you. He was an employer. You made certain life's choices, which was you told your mother that you were going to be working here. If you were smarter, you would have said to your mother, and if your mother was smarter, she would have said, before I go and rent her room, I'm going to wait a month and see if this works out, because it may not work out. After all, my daughter and her year-old child are going to live with a stranger, and who knows if it's going to work out. He's not responsible for that, Ms. Turner. Listen to me. You're not listening. You want to talk. He's not responsible for that. And if you had gone to his home and you found that he was some sort of a pervert, and you called your mother and said, listen, I can't stay here. I'm afraid for myself and I'm afraid for my daughter. He couldn't sue you for breaching a contract because you didn't have a contract. This is a life circumstance, and you have to be a two-process thinker, Ms. Turner. If you go to work for somebody that you don't know, from an ad that you found in the paper, you say to your mother or wherever you're living, listen, I want to hold my room for a couple of weeks. Let me see if it works out. If it works out, I'll let you know. Then you can rent my room. Do you understand?
Correct.
All right. Now, let's talk about your cross-complaint. You say that she purposefully damaged your property?
Yes.
What property?
32-inch television set.
How did she do that?
Poured a bottle of beer in it.
Did you see her do that?
No, I did not see her.
Well, did anybody that you have here see her do that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Look, this is an unfortunate circumstance, but it happens all the time, Ms. Turner. It happens all the time that you start a job and it doesn't work out.
But the 3-year-old kid, Your Honor, they said the kid was tormented. The mother left him 12 times. The first night I was there, the kid was calling me Mommy. They asked me if I had a problem with that. I said no.
What does that have to do with your lawsuit?
Because I got attached to the kid. He's going to ask me to leave. He knows I had nowhere else to go. He knew I had nowhere else to go.
Ms. Turner, he's not your father. He's your employer.
Right, I know.
So you have to plan. How old are you?
I'm 19.
So you know in the future. It's a good lesson. And your lesson is, if you went into an employment agreement,
right,
you don't burn your bridges until you see that it's going to work out. You got it? Good. Your lawsuit's dismissed. Your counterclaim, sir, listen to me carefully. If you can't prove that you purposely damaged any of your property, your counterclaim is dismissed.
Well, I can prove that she was the last one with my digital mobile phone. Okay? I have a mobile phone bill. All right. Well, ask her if she knows anything about the mobile phone before I go any further.
Oh, do you really want to go there? He said that we were going to go to Jamaica. I needed to call up to Michigan.
Sure.
I need to call up to Michigan and get my birth certificate. That's what I did.
How many calls did you make on the mobile phone?
I need 2. 2 or 3 to Michigan, because I needed to get a hold of my cousin so she can call the hospital so I can get my birth certificate to go to Jamaica.
Anything else on there?
I'm talking about the theft of the mobile phone. She was the last person with the phone. And also the spare battery and the charger is gone.
Do you have the phone?
No, Your Honor. The phone that he gave me doesn't even have a battery charger to it.
The digital, not the other one.
The phone you gave me just had, it's the little phone where you clip the battery in. It didn't have a charger to it. I gave that phone back to you. The police took it from me.
Which police officer took it from you?
The last time, the night before I left, they took it from me. I had to ask to use the phone. They came and brought the phone back to me so I can use the phone to call a friend of mine. They took it back from me.
So the police have it?
The police
Do you remember the name of the police?
Wrong. I have a witness to verify she was the last one with it in her company.
I'm sure he can get another one. He has several phones.
It's not the fact about getting another one.
What? Yes, you're the daughter.
I was on the phone. Oh, my name's Tracy, by the way, not Tammy. I was on the phone with her when they were arguing. He was like, give me my phone back. She was like, not until you give me my beeper, because he took her beeper
she had both
until she would give his mobile phone back. So I'm like on the phone arguing with her, trying to get her to give him the phone back, which I told her if you give him the phone back, he'll give you your beeper back.
Did you ever get your beeper back?
Yes. He threw it in the house. I was like, oh, you're going to throw my beeper, okay? And I was standing outside.
So what did you do with the phone?
He went and picked it up because I was standing outside.
You said to her, he'll get the phone back when I get my beeper back.
Right. He gave me the beeper back. I gave him his phone.
Where did you put the phone?
He got it. I gave it to him in his hand.
I did not get it.
Tony Turner says she was wrongfully fired and evicted as a live-in housekeeper. Stephen Reyes says she stole and made terrorist threats.
Mr. Reyes, when she got back her pager, did you have your phone in your hand?
No.
Yes.
Why did you then, sir, give her back
the pager was left on the kitchen table. She snatched it off the table and had both of the mobile phones. She keeps referring to the regular mobile phone, which is outside right now.
That's
okay,
the phone
I'm talking
you
about
let
the
me use.
digital one that she had stole. All right. Now, she was in the kitchen with the regular mobile. All right. And while the cops were there, I said, "Look, that's my phone. I'd like to have it back." But she was playing the game with the phones before the way I didn't get them. But I'd never seen the digital after that. And she kept stating to the police she didn't know anything about it. But my neighbor was over at the house at the time with the kids in my child's room, with her ranting and raving, okay, with both of the phones. Now, after the incident, and I got the regular mobile phone from the cops, from her, I still had never seen the digital, and I had left and went over to my neighbor's house with my son. All right, because they said we need to separate or whatever. She wasn't going, is what she was saying. She was going to make it miserable for me or whatever the case may be.
Why don't I make it miserable?
But the bottom
Your
line
Honor, the reason why we had the mobile phone is because Stephen couldn't get his phone turned on in the house. So
what difference does that make?
He had his own phone, the digital, the more expensive one, he had himself. He gave me the little cheap phone with the battery.
Miss Turner.
That's the phone I had.
You keep talking. Do you see my mouth moving?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have his phone?
No, I do not. The police gave it. I'm sorry.
Did you have his digital phone?
Not his digital phone. The one he let me use the day I moved in is the one I gave back to Mr. Reyes.
Now, the digital phone, when was the last time you saw that?
He had it.
When was the last time you saw it, is my question.
When we were outside. We were standing outside because the battery in the phone I had was going dead. And at that point, I said, forget it. He gave me back my pager. I gave him his phone.
Your Honor,
I was talking to Tracy, and the battery was dead.
It was a bad experience, sir. I'm not satisfied that you are going to be able to establish to my satisfaction by proof that I'm totally comfortable with. And as I said to you, it's very possible she has the phone.
Well, if my last call on my mobile phone bill is going to show a number that I don't even know the number, okay?
Was
it's
that
the number that she put on this piece of paper to
Listen to
sue
me.
Yes.
Was that before or after she was ultimately put out of your house? Was that number called before?
Before she was put out of my house.
Before.
Because I left my house to go to my neighbor's,
So
and
listen,
the digital phone
listen
was still,
to me.
Yes, go ahead.
Why don't you listen?
Because
if you had a bill that showed me that on the 1st of July she was put out of the house, and on the 3rd of July she made a phone call, you got a bill that showed a phone call that she made, I would say that's proof that she's got it. But you have a phone bill that says that the last call...
I have a witness.
Listen to me! That the last phone call that was made on that phone was while she was still at the house. Is that what that bill is?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Is it possible? Is it probable? Yes. Can you prove it to my satisfaction? Your counterclaim? I don't think so. And as far as your lawsuit is concerned, you got to learn.
Not even for the mental anguish, Your Honor?
What mental anguish?
What mental anguish?
What mental anguish?
I have a young daughter that I need to take care of. I was in a situation
You
where I did not
worked
know...
for him for a week.
Correct.
Good. Correct. How many times do I have to say it to you, madam? You're 19 years old. I know you're young. I know you have a responsibility. You have a child. Before you take... You don't want the full measure of what I have to say to you, or maybe you do. Before you take your year-old child into a household that you know absolutely nothing about, you don't know anything about him, you don't know anything about his daughter, you don't know anything about anything that's going on there. If you're smart and if you're responsible, you say to your mother, look, I want to leave the baby home for a few days, a week. Let me see what this is all about before I take my child into an unknown environment. That's what you do if you're responsible. But then you don't stand there like a crybaby and say to me, I have mental anguish. Of course, everybody who's fired has mental anguish. Think of all the people who were downsized, who worked for companies for 35 years, and all of a sudden, they come in one day, they get a pink slip, and they say, you're fired, we no longer need your services. Listen!
He wanted to have sex with me, and I refused.
Oh, you're full of baloney. You're full of baloney.
No.
This case is dismissed.
Party's not excused. You may
You're
step
a liar.
out. Come on.
You're a liar.
You're going to jail, too.
Out the back door to your right.
I am
Out
not
the back
going
door
to
to your
jail.
right.
Just a second. Your behind touched the female undercover officer's breast.
I can give you a demonstration.
I'm dying to see that.
To do that with you or with...
Not with me, honey.
The rules of the game.
She can touch him here. Now, once he goes to turn around, and this is what happens.
I see. No, go no further.
Party's on Fridley Funky versus the Wild Boys Show Club. Step forward.
18-year-olds Cassandra Fridley and Tara Funky are suing Wild Boys owner Sky for their drinks, cover charge, plus pain and suffering after they were kicked out of the strip club.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 317 on the calendar in the matter of Fridley Funky versus the Wild Boys Show Club. Yeah. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, gentlemen, have a seat.
You own a club.
Yes, ma'am.
And from reading between the lines in these papers, this is a male strip club. Is that right?
That's correct.
you two ladies were patrons at that club.
That's correct.
And had you gone there before?
That's correct.
How many times?
Ooh, quite a few times. As a matter of fact, I started going ever since I turned 18, which is around July. We're regular customers. And
I've been going for over a year, ever since they've opened.
We'll get to the lawsuit in a minute. Why?
it's fun to go, you know, for occasions, birthdays, bachelorette parties.
Okay. Your lawsuit says that on this particular night you went to the club, you were rejected for bad behavior. And you were rejected at a time that you had just ordered a round of drinks. You had $65 worth of drinks on the table. You want to be reimbursed for the drinks, for the cover charge, and a lot for your pain and suffering. So what time did you get to the club on that particular night?
Around 8 o'clock, Your Honor, when the club first opened.
Were you told that your behavior during the course of the evening was unacceptable?
No, Your Honor.
Never?
No, it's normal behavior of any...
Like what?
Like, let's say, for example, I was invited up on stage to tip a dancer. And at that point, he had moved his T-bar, and I sticked $1 in, and I was kind of dancing with him. And then as I stepped down off the stage, the manager, Shelly, grabbed me by the arm
Who's
and
Shelly?
took me.
This is Shelly, my
She's
manager.
right there.
Step up.
She grabbed my arm and took me down off the stage. It was, you know, completely humiliating. They never warned me to get down off the stage, you know.
Were you ever up on the stage before?
I've stepped up on the stage to give the dancers tips, just like I did that evening.
Well, you told me you did a little more than just give them a tip. You were up there dancing.
Well, yeah, you kind of move with the music.
Your Honor.
Okay.
It is
So-
posted outside of the door, all the rules and regulations as well.
What do they say?
The rules state that the ladies are not allowed to get up on stage unless directed to by a dancer. They
Well,
state
she says she was invited up on the stage by a dancer.
that's incorrect. Sebastian was the dancer in question.
You were the dancer.
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
You're Sebastian.
My name is Sebastian.
How long have you been dancing at the club?
Almost about a year now.
Okay. Do you remember what happened with this young lady?
Yes, I was on stage performing and I was dancing. The ladies came in with the party. When I was doing my performances, she came up and was to dance. There's 3 steps.
You went too fast for me. She came up and she what?
She was coming up to tip me.
To tip you?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the ladies either stay on the floor and tip and I'll kneel down, or they come up the steps. There's 3 steps, and the 3rd step is kind of wide for them to stop. And so I opened my T-bar for her to tip. So when I opened it up, she proceeded to step on the stage, and she was going along with the music, trying to dance with me. I then kind of stepped away. I've been fined before. I've been fined for $1,000 for just grazing a person. So when she had her hands on me...
What do you mean? You're fined if you do what?
I've been fined before
For
just...
what?
For just my buttocks, grazing a woman's breast.
It was a undercover police officer. That was he was.
You mean you're not allowed to? The dancers aren't allowed to have any physical contact with the patrons.
They can. What they can and can't do. What they can do is the women are allowed to touch us on the pectoral muscles, down the stomach. They can touch our legs. They cannot touch our buttocks or our genital area. And his fine was because his buttocks touched one of the police officers on her breast, and he received.
How did that happen? I'm trying to figure that out.
Same here. You know, and the weird thing about that, Your Honor, is that we don't find out about the fine till like 3 months later.
Your behind touched the female undercover officer's breast.
I can give you a demonstration.
Just a second.
Things must be different in Tucson.
I can give you a demonstration of how that would happen.
I'm dying to see that.
Okay. Do you want to do that with you or with...
Not with me, honey.
For instance, we'll move here, so I have a little more room. If I'm dancing and say this is the police officer that gave him the fine, this is what he is allowed to do. And she is allowed to touch him right in this area. She can touch him here. Now once he goes to turn around, and this is what happens.
I see. No, go no further. Back here. Okay. So she was dancing with you, and you were moving away from her because you had gotten a fine, and she persisted to, and she was still dancing on the stage.
Yeah, she proceeded to get on stage, and she was touching me. By that time, the manager came and asked her to step down.
Okay. Have a seat.
Thank you.
Manager.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened when you asked her to step down?
I walked her down the stairs. I did grab her by the elbow and escort her down the stairs. reminded her of the rules. These ladies have been coming to the club for a long time. A little while later, I had to remind Cassandra that she was not allowed on stage.
Well, who's Cassandra? That's you?
That's me.
Did you get up on the stage?
It was kind of.
The answer is yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so she went up on stage.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
A little while later, Mr. Valentine, Casey, came over and actually complained to me. Cassandra had grabbed his rear end.
Who was that?
Casey
That's you?
Valentine.
You were dancing too?
Yes.
Who grabbed you?
Cassandra.
Little one over here.
She had placed her hand on my butt, and I had explained to her, you know, you can't.
What'd you say to her?
I said, you know, you're not allowed to do that. 'Cause she's been in there before, and she knows the rules. She's been a customer of mine for at least a year and a half.
Cassandra Fridley and Tara Funky say they were kicked out of the Wild Boys strip club without getting their drinks. Club owner Sky says it is their policy to remove customers who misbehave.
At what point did you ask these ladies to leave?
Right after Cassandra grabbed Casey Valentine's rear.
For the second time?
Yes.
Okay, and they had just ordered a round of drinks?
Yes, they had.
And you said just leave the drinks on the table?
Yes, our policy in our club is when you're asked to leave, you must leave immediately.
Ladies, you broke the rules. What do you want? You having a good time? You broke the rules.
No, the rules were not broke. I mean, like we explained, we were going up to the stage to tip the dancers. We were not actually on stage. She guided me off way before I even had a chance
Let
to,
me ask you this question. Let's talk about common sense.
Okay.
Okay? This is their business.
Right.
You are a good customer, right? She is a good customer. Why in the world would you think that they would ask two good customers to leave if you hadn't done something wrong? Give me a reason. So they don't like you?
No, I think it has to do with their manager. I mean, to be honest, we've had problems with her in the past. It's been kind of like a jealousy issue. And I think the guys are more afraid to, you know, they have to go along with whatever she says because she's their boss, you know?
Who paid your $1,000 fine?
I paid the $1,000 fine, ma'am.
Out of your own pocket?
Yes, I did.
Here, sit down. Ladies.
We've never had a problem
He
before
says that you touched
before
him.
she got there.
He says that you touched him twice.
Well, they're gonna, you know, they're gonna say whatever they can
I
say
believe
for
him.
her because she's.
I
she's their
believe
boss.
him. Why don't you two ladies try a museum?
If they
you have no case. Your case is nonsense. You went to their club. You didn't do the right thing. They had an absolute right to eject you. Once they ejected you, they made a determination that they didn't want to risk their liquor license or additional fines, and they chose to tell you, we don't want you to come back, which is their right. Get a life. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
We enjoy going to this club. It's a great club. The main point is that we like to go back.
We just went to try to have a fun time, and I don't think, you know, she has the right to pick on us. And of course, her dancers are going to stick up for her because otherwise they'll lose their job.
You know, I feel bad because they're great customers. I've known them a while, but that doesn't give them a right to come in there and grab the guys, pull their T-bars down, and so on. So I feel like justice was served.
And now the next case.
Party's on. Johnson versus Bell. Step forward, please.
28-year-old bartender Stacy Johnson claims 27-year-old service rep Richard Bell owes her for her 800 phone line and rent.
Miss Johnson, you live in Colorado?
Correct.
And Mr. Bell, you had been living in Texas.
That's correct.
You met each other while you were visiting some family in Colorado?
That's correct.
Yes.
Spent a little bit of time together?
Yes.
According to these papers, reading between the lines, fell instantaneously in like.
True.
And you, Miss Johnson, did a very dumb thing.
Yes.
You gave him your 800 number.
Correct.
Now, did you go out and purchase this 800 number in order to give it to him, or had you had it?
I've had it for 2 years prior to meeting him.
Why do you need an 800 number? I'm just curious.
It was something the phone company gave me to switch to a long-distance service.
So you gave him the 800 number so that he could use it to call you?
Correct.
which you did a lot.
Yes.
Now, what did you say to him when you gave him this 800 number?
Call me when you need to, but don't call me too much because it's going to cost me money.
Okay. Is that what she said to you?
Yeah.
Call me when you need to. So you called a lot. And then eventually you moved back from Texas to Colorado. And you moved in with her.
No.
She says you moved in with her.
No, I moved with my mom. I stayed there occasionally.
How occasionally?
Twice, 3 times a week.
28-year-old bartender Stacy Johnson claims 27-year-old service rep Richard Bell owes her for her 800 phone line and rent.
Now, you say he actually lived with you for about 2 months.
Correct.
Tell me how that came about.
From all the telephone calls on the 1-800 number.
All right, that he was going to come to stay with you.
To live with me.
To live with you. Tell me about your arrangement when he moved in.
Before he left Texas to come to Colorado, there was an understanding, an agreement between both of us where he said he would help me pay the 800 bill.
You remember that conversation?
Yeah, in full. It was to the point where the phone calls, I mean, they were wanted. I mean, they were accepted.
Well,
I mean,
I understand that, but did you have a
conversation
conversation with her where she said to you, you know, I'm getting my phone bills and I really can't afford to pay them?
No, it wasn't to that extent, no.
Well, what did she say to you, sir?
Basically, nothing as far as the 800 bills was concerned. It was just call.
Okay, and when you got here, what happened, sir?
Then the relationship began breaking up, and...
Okay, but before it actually broke up, she had a conversation with you about the phone bill when you were staying there 2 or 3 days a week?
That bill as well as other bills.
Okay, so there was a conversation about bills.
Right.
While you were still a couple. Right?
Correct.
And according to you, sir, what were the conversations about the bills? Let's start with the phone bill first.
How were they going to get paid?
And what did you say?
That I was willing to help.
So did you help?
Yeah.
How did you help?
Well, when I could, because when I first came here, I wasn't working. Therefore, I didn't have much money.
Well, according to both of you, this relationship, once you moved back, only lasted a couple of months. So you began working when? February.
Roughly through January, actually.
And you stayed together until February. You didn't move out until February.
Right.
So how much money did you give her towards the phone bill?
Roughly 100.
Roughly 100. That was a good number. Ms. Johnson, let me tell you what your problem is. Even according to you, you gave him your 800 number and you did not have a contract with him. A verbal contract. A verbal contract would have been, Hun, because we really like each other, we want to keep this relationship going, and because you don't have a job, which was your first mistake. No job, problem. But you did it. I'm going to give you my 800 number. But if you use it, you're going to have to be responsible for the bill.
Correct.
Now, even according to you, you didn't say that to him. You said, here's my 800 number. Use it, but don't overuse it because it'll be a big bill. That's what you said.
He wasn't working. So therefore, I brought him out here. He left me for another woman after the relationship deteriorated because he's basically a gigolo. So
how much did this relationship cost you?
A lot. Would you like to see?
No, why don't you tell me?
Well, the 800 bill was $1,551. 3 months of rent.
Were you living alone at the time he moved out?
When he
to live
moved in
with you?
with me, yes, I was.
So it didn't really cost you anything extra. He just moved in.
Yes, it did.
What?
Emotional stress.
Well,
I know. But that was my own fault.
Right. There was never a set agreement. You move in here, Mr. Bell. I want you to come in here, and This is my home, but we're going to share the bills 50-50. At the end of every month, you're going to give me $200 for rent and $50 for this. There was never that kind of understanding.
Well, yes, there was.
Ms.
It was a
Johnson?
verbal agreement. It
To
all
what?
sounded good.
No, it was a
I was
verbal
going
agreement.
to marry this idiot.
Shh, shh. Miss Johnson,
Yes,
how old are you?
28.
Bad judgment. You didn't marry him. So the lesson cost you $1,000. Now, Mr. Bell, don't you feel as if you are at least morally responsible for some of these bills?
But we're not together anymore. Therefore, I feel like I'm not responsible for anything. I'm not responsible for her rent that she's paying. This is due
I'm
on
not
the
talking
first
about
of the
rent.
month. I'm not
Rent is
responsible for
rent.
anything.
Rent is rent.
We're not
I mean,
together anymore, so
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm asking you a moral. You
Well,
called her.
you couldn't be
Hey,
faithful.
don't talk to each other. I don't like that. I'm talking about a moral responsibility, especially since you're no longer together.
I'm not just going to leave her high and dry.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't feel like I'm responsible for
The phone
800
call.
billing. Right.
Why is that?
Because, I mean, it wasn't my decision to have her get the 800 number or even give me the telephone number to call her.
The number wasn't...
The number was established before me and her even met.
Right.
Therefore,
Miss Johnson.
Therefore, she can give the number to anybody and
No,
have
she
them
didn't
call
give
her.
it to anybody. She gave it to you. And you used it a lot. You used to call her a couple of times a day.
Right.
Didn't you think that that cost money?
Well, yeah, of course.
So didn't you feel some sort of an obligation to say, "Hun, I want to help you out with this phone bill
Right.
because it's my phone bill. If you call me, that's one thing. But if I call you, since I don't have a phone, I can't get credit, I can't do this and I can't do that, and you're so nice to me and giving me your card, I'm at least going to pay the phone bill."
I could not. I wasn't working.
Miss Johnson.
I paid what I could.
Yes.
Put a period and get on with it. You made a mistake. Your mistake was of short duration and it ended up costing you $1,000. But this is not a lawsuit. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Ms. Lund, you seem upset.
Yes. I haven't seen my sister in a year.
Sisters in crisis.
This is about her husband trying to seduce me years ago. Even her old boyfriend tried to hit on me.
Excuse me, the only thing that I've lacked today is an acting course.
My sense is that you view yourself as a victim.
All parties on Malaretska versus Lund. Step forward, please.
48-year-old hotel consultant Trudy Malaretska is suing her sister, 41-year-old massage therapist Rosalind Lund, for a car loan. Rosalind says her sister is being cold-hearted.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 280 on the calendar in the matter of Malaretska versus Lund. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Lund, you seem upset. Do you want to second call this case?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Sure you want to continue?
Yes. I haven't seen my sister in a year.
This is your sister.
Correct.
According to you, several years ago, in what year did you make this loan?
I don't know exactly, about 6 or 7 years ago.
6 or 7?
Yeah, it's an estimate.
When was the loan made?
This December, the car I took the loan from, 4 years. I've only owned the car for 4 years, as of this December.
Okay. So approximately 4 years ago, your sister needed a car. She had no credit. According to you, you agreed to advance her the $6,000 for the car by using your credit in your name. You gave her the $6,000, and your agreement with your sister was that on the first of each month, she would deposit $250, which was the car payment. Is that right?
Yes, at that time, that wasn't the amount, though.
There was no amount at that time.
Just a second. According to your complaint, Rosalind, that's you,
Yes.
agreed to pay $250 a month the first of each month, including interest, and agreed to have the funds deposited directly into my account. That's what you said in your complaint.
That agreement was signed in 1997. But prior to that agreement being signed, she was only obligated to at least pay the monthly minimum interest payment and more if she could.
Did she pay?
She paid the interest from the beginning, as stated.
Mm-hmm.
And then when 1997 rolled around, because I had a note due on the loan, I wanted to accelerate the payments. So that's when I went back to her and said, we need to move this along a lot faster because paying the interest isn't going to get the note paid off.
That's true.
So at that point in time, I conferred with her and asked her how much she thought she could afford to pay on a monthly basis to get this thing moving. And she came up with $250 and thought on the first of the month she could make it.
Okay, did you reduce that to a writing?
Yes.
Do you have that?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
Your Honor, is there a date on that?
2/23/97.
Okay.
Okay, so this is clear. You agreed in February of '97 to pay back the $250 a month, which represents principal and interest discharged by Citibank for this loan.
This loan she took, she told me, from a mortgage from her home.
What difference does it make?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Doesn't. I mean, if she took it out as a second
true.
mortgage, she was still paying it off, and the $6,000 had to be paid.
When-
And according to you, your sister did, in fact, pay off $3,428 of the loan. So you did make a lot of those payments.
Correct.
Then, according to your complaint, a couple of months ago, she stopped making the payments as per this contract.
She's been gradually not paying late, paying not the full amount, $250. So I was constantly having to call her and ask her about the payments and when she was going to make the deposits, and asking her to let me know when she was going to make the deposits. And she would give me a date and an amount she would deposit, and she would not make the deposits on those dates. So I'd call her again and I'd say, what happened? You haven't made the deposits. We need to get it paid off and work on this. And she'd give me another date, and she would not follow through with that date.
So what happened?
Your Honor, during all this time, I was involved in a relationship. My boyfriend was undergoing cancer at the time. I spent 1 year taking care of him. We've had 2 surgeries, 6 months of chemo, radiation. You know all this. Our father died of cancer. This was a traumatic thing for me to relive again. And knowing the stress factor I was under, because I am a healthcare provider, I work as a massage therapist in a rehabilitative clinic in Glendora, I was his healthcare provider. I lost a lot of work, a lot of monies. I put my whole personal life on hold to take care of this one particular person. She knew the stress level that I was under. I couldn't keep payments up or go beyond the interest point because I was losing money. Plus I lost savings that I put out to support myself. In the midst of this, she sent me this contract. And I'm like pulling my hair out trying to keep this guy alive, which he did go into remission. And now we're no longer together. I don't think this has anything.
You took care of him and then he left?
Yeah, he just said, hey, you know what, thank you for helping me, see you later, goodbye. So you know what a jerk. During this, I don't think any of this has to do with money between her and I. I haven't seen her in a year. I haven't seen my older sister in a year and 3 months. This family is sick. What going on here today, you have a judgment of the law, the judgment of the land, of love between this family is sick. We all need to be in counseling, but we're so busy trying to fight who's the bigger victim, who's getting this, who's getting that. I've had a horrible last couple of years, and she has known this. She called me on the phone and says, I do not sit around my office and wonder about our sisterly relationship. I sit around and wonder when you're going to make the Citibank note. A week before we came here, she lied to my mother and my older sister and tried to get my older sister to say that she subpoenaed her to be here to testify against me. She did this. How dare her do this? She's my sister. Where is our family values here? Where are we supposed to be? My phone gets turned off. I tell her I'm under stress. I got rid of this guy. They've cut my hours down at work. Now they're trying to eliminate me. I've lost my car insurance. And all she does is sit around and carry about her interest. This woman has her own company. She's loaded, you know? And that's not the factor. But the point is that she has great attributes that I need.
I have attributes that she needs. This is about her husband trying to seduce me years ago, and then ever since then it's been one issue after another. Even her old boyfriend tried to hit on me. No, it's wrong. In the family we call her Hitler. There is something definitely not right here in this family. And what needs to be done is we need to go to family counseling, not sit here and judge Judy and try to get our family issues resolved because she wants her little interest. You know what? If I was in her position, I would just kiss this loan off. If I ever get in a position, I win the lotto tomorrow and I had millions of dollars, I would buy my older sister a car and a home. What are we going to do with this money? Take it to our grave?
Trudy Maloretska is suing her sister Rosalind Lund for a car loan.
Let me ask you this question. How do you support yourself now?
Right now, barely. I have my last paycheck stub. It goes on depending on patients. My rent is $500 a month. I'm barely making $700 right now. Then I have private clients on the side, and those are not always consistent. My job is trying to eliminate me. I'm in financial stress.
You still drive this car?
Yes, I do.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 91 Honda Prelude. I take very good care of it.
You have insurance on it?
I just recently lost it because I could not keep up the payments. But I can't talk to her.
Just a second. So how are you driving a car without insurance?
Trying to get it back. I don't have any money. I have just enough to survive. I don't talk to her because every time she called me, she would verbally abuse me over and over on the phone. I can't communicate with her.
Let me ask you this.
I can't even discuss what happened in our family.
Listen to me. When was the last time you made an interest payment on this loan?
I don't know. She's the financial whiz. She's the one that wants to bury me.
Listen, you're supposed to be responsible.
Probably about 2-3 months ago.
Okay.
She keeps track of money.
Okay.
That she's great at.
Just a second. The problem is, if you said to me, I can't afford to pay the $250.
I told her.
Shh. Listen. I can't afford to pay the $250 a month. But I know that it's your credit that's at risk if I don't pay at least the interest. So I'm going to keep up the interest. You said to me, I take very good care of the car. If you take very good care of the car, well, that's very nice. You change the oil, you do whatever you have to do to have it serviced, right? But meanwhile, you have a responsibility to pay for it.
It's true.
Now, I don't necessarily disagree with you that it is unfortunate when sisters have to come to court and sue each other. By the way, I see you have that little train. Is that the train that your sister was talking about in her answer that she wants back?
Yeah, she would.
Is that the train she wants back that belonged to her father? Did you bring it to give it to her?
No, of course not.
Did you bring it to give it to her?
I was asked to bring it.
Okay.
That's when she tried to get my older sister to testify, because she's looking bad now. She's getting exposed.
Can I see this train, please? Sure. According to your answer, your sister has a train, this little toy train that belongs to you that was left to you by your father.
It was my father's train. He played with it as a child. He died in 1966 of cancer at the age of 44. It was passed on to me as a child. I played with it. I gave it to her for safekeeping. And about 3 or 4 years ago at Thanksgiving, I asked her for it back. She goes, no, it doesn't belong to you. It's mine. It's mother. She has got an entire...
Just a second. Just a second. Tell me about the train.
She just wants to control. She wants to hurt people and abuse them. That's what she's good at. Money hungry.
Okay. I'm not going to deal with this train. Give the train back to her. Miss Lund, let me tell you what I sense. My sense is that you view yourself as a victim.
We're all victims. That's the problem in the family.
You view yourself as a victim. Everybody is against you. The problem is, whenever you lend somebody money, the person who lends the money always turns out to be the bad guy. That has been my experience. The person who lends money, the family member who lends money and then says, I want it back, is always the bad one. That's why you got to really think twice before you lend money to a sister or a brother. When you lend money to somebody in your family, what you really have to say is, I never expect to get it back.
I like that.
Well, because, well, I want to tell you something, Miss Lund, that doesn't make it right.
That's true. It doesn't make it right.
That doesn't make it right. But that seems to be what happened. That has been my experience my whole life. When brothers and sisters and cousins stop talking to each other is because one has been a good person, helped out in a time of need, And when they want their money back, all of a sudden they become an ogre, a money-hungry, controlling person. She lent you the money.
I'd pay her. If I could afford to pay her, I would pay her.
And what is she supposed to tell Citibank? She's supposed to tell Citibank, I'm sorry, my sister can't afford to pay me?
I don't know. She has lots of money. She's got
That's not your business. What are you looking at her pocketbook for?
Because I'm talking about family values.
No, and I'm
that's
talking
where
about,
we're out of line here.
And I'm talking about being responsible.
That's right. That's
How old
right.
are you?
Two different things.
How old are you?
41.
When you're 41 years old, you don't only talk about family values, you talk about being responsible. You just told me a story about how you cared for a boyfriend, not a husband, a boyfriend. You cared for him. You gave up your job, you gave up money, you gave up a year or two of your life to care for this virtual stranger who turned around and dumped you after he got better.
That's right.
Right? Right?
Jerk.
Here you had a sister who you've had for 41 years. How old are you?
48.
Okay, so you've had this sister for 41 years. And in your time of need, she helped you. Where is your responsibility to make sure that she isn't out any money?
Trudy Maloretska wants her sister, Rosalind Lund, to pay back her car loan. Rosalind says her sister is being vindictive.
What's still owed on the loan is $3,328.72.
That's the principal, and then I've been picking up the interest payments. There's 3 of them that I have noted there.
Okay.
That I've been paying on her behalf.
How much? I have the November interest payment?
There's a check mark on that sheet. There should be 3 check marks.
For $26.03.
And then $26.16 twice.
Okay.
And then the principal.
Okay. Bird, keep it simple. $3,328.72.
But what I
Shh. $26.16. $26.16. $26.16 again. And $26.03.
$3,407.07.
Okay, now your sister says something that, quite frankly, I think has some merit. It appears to me that you haven't spoken in a long time. I don't know what else is going on.
She hasn't even
in
been
your
to my
family.
house. I've lived in the same place for 3.5 years. She's never once taken any interest in spending any holidays at my home, coming to see me. She's come down to the area but stayed at finer hotels, like my home's not good enough. She makes accusations about my life when she knows nothing about it. She never interacts with me. She makes judgment calls. She badmouths me to my mother, my older sister. I mean, this family's sick. And you're right, I'm the only victim. No, she's a victim. The oldest one's a victim. She lied. We're all fighting for something that's not real. We don't need to be here. We need to be in counseling. The whole sick family.
Excuse me. The only thing that I've lacked today is an acting course on how to compete with this. But I think that one thing is very apparent is that I think that because she makes an accusation about me does not make it true. And I get very tired of accusations and things that she knows nothing. And things of which she knows nothing, to make these obtuse statements about me and who I am and what I do.
Let me tell you something.
And the obscene phone calls that are left on my machine are totally unacceptable.
Did you hear what I said?
So your calls are unacceptable.
Courts have been used by people, or they try to use courts as therapists, as family counselors. Courts can't do that.
That's right.
I mean, I can't, in the brief period of time that I have here, just listen to me before you say anything. Try to keep your head open. I can't do anything about finding out what the pathology is in this family and what it's been over the last 4 decades to have brought you 2 sisters here today in such a state of animus. What I do know is you owe her $3,407.07. And Citibank isn't interested in the fact that you're having hard times and that your boyfriend had cancer and that you took care of him.
This is exactly what she says to me on the phone.
Just be quiet. Citibank's not interested in that.
That's right.
And there were things that you did during the course of these last 3.5 years, and I'm sure during the course of the last couple of months, including spending $26, which are just the interest payments, on something else, whether it was going out to eat, going to a movie, having your hair done, having a facial, having a manicure, having a pedicure, something else, so that you could put together $26 just so that the interest payments would be off her back, and at least then she wouldn't be delinquent. You chose not to do that. You said to me, it's been a while since I've made even the interest payments. So I can understand it, why your sister says at this point, I have to do something, because I'm going to be out this money. Now, you say she's got plenty of money. And we shouldn't have, she's got plenty of money. What's that your business? That's not your business whether she's got plenty of money. You're not her child.
That's right, I'm not.
You're absolutely right. You're not her child. You're not her child.
That's right.
And she could be the kind of person that says, listen, my sister's been going through a bad time. I have more than she does. I'm going to forgive this loan. She chooses not to do that.
That's right. And I should have just went to a bank because that's what I'm dealing with. I'm not even dealing with somebody human.
If you went with a... Let me tell you something, madam.
This is not human. This is not family.
I want you to be quiet. If you went to a bank, you wouldn't have your nice car because they would have come and repossessed your car.
I could accept that.
Well, then I suggest that you sell it. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,407. I suggest you sell the car and pay her off.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back onto your rank, please.
क्या हाल है वह ठीक है फिट है तबीयत सियात लिया ठीक है फिट है ओ फिट फाट अल्लाह ठीक है खैर खरिया ते फिट पई फिट है कैसे आप स्कूल दा पढ़ाई दे ना पैंदा ना ना हुन कर काम सिखदा पिया हुन रो थई आते काम तो ना पैंदा तो आई करे से मैं कुछ सिखले से ना सिखले से अल्लाह बंदा ते कोई काम सिखाए से कबाड़ दा ना सिखे काम ने हुन थका वदमा हुन मैं बिना काम करे ना बड़ा काम करे ना जे रही करे सा बड़ा करे सा काम छोटा मोटा काम नहीं करना अच्छा काम करना नहीं भूख मरना नहीं बिरादर हुन ओवा क्या ना इसे मंजूर ना होगा मुश्ताक को वेना पका है ना हाल ही गत है 2 महीने की छुट्टी है वधी है हाल ही वधी है साल की छुट्टी है क्या साल की छुट्टी है वधवाई है हुन वैसी 2 महीने लागे ने सर्दियां ले पीछे में ले लोग तो पक्काड़ी है ना काम शाम मठे मेनू देगा यार मुल्क दे हालात ही मठे ठंडे कसम बात है हुन कड्डी पर भावे वीजा है भावे कहानी दी चो ने यल्ला रो काम दा तो ना कोई हाल काम दे हाल जो बंदा एक दा ओदा ना यार कोई समय नहीं लगदी अच्छा बोला जरा ये दुकान पर चंगी भी है हां है ना गल्ले निकल दे पा नेरे ये निकल दे पन खुदा ये होगा तेल ना लगा कोई बंदे ढेने में तेल ना डेशन खत्म थे या तो पीछे इंजेक्शन लगा ये डॉक्टर अपना सी ना सकता है अदाए नहीं आंदा ये हाले राजा है उदी तो वाला उम्र कर आया है वाला वापसी थी भी है सीधा हां पीछे गया काम नो इने को लोग करना या फिर इने काम ते खड़ में अच्छा सियोण इंदी शादी थी पे ना निकाह हां इंदी शादी थी नहीं पे झुमर ताड़ी ये कहने नाल थे पे इंदी कोई पता नहीं और मैं पता है क्या झुमर ताड़ी है वो सी झुमर ताड़ी है ये छोर ये हेवी इना प्यो सुलझाया आप है ना हां पैसे वाला है ना पैसा है ना काम होता है कि पता है मैं कि तू ना करे बस इने में दे रहा कसम है ऐसी कोई बात दुआ मारी ने तवे दियो किते ने बस ऐसा थे मौका है अच्छा अरे देखो संगत है ये काम दे हालात नहीं रह गए काम दे हालात कहीं नहीं होगा काम दे ना पहुंचा अच्छा होगा हम स्कूल तो 2 छुट्टियां होने ने सरकारी ये तो 2 छुट्टियां होने काहे ना मैं आप छुट्टी की छुट्टी होनी है एक जरा ही छुट्टी होनी है इतवार की छुट्टी हां सरकारी स्कूल में दाई में पहले तो छत तक भरे पे होना सामान हुन काहे ना प्राइवेट है ना जरा मुंह में ना कहीं नहीं मुंदे काहे ना उंदे बस इतवार जरी है सरकारी ना है तुम्हारा सरकारी है सारा प्राइवेट है ये कुछ सटे नाम ही में छुआर वीडियो है ना चाहते सरकारी है सर वो दे मुड़ा ही पढ़ना मैं कल मेरा सामान चाह के मैंने अपना दाखिला आप करवाई आया रोज हम आप करवाई मैं ही नहीं आ क्या कितनी मिनट है इशारा नहीं हाले पई बहु भी आ रहे थे हाल शुक्र है अल्लाह का कराने अदा ना से राजी रे उदे निकल गए कोई निराशी रो क्या कर गए उदे निराशी रो उदे सही करवा ना नहीं दूसरे कभी करवा ए हो रे थे शाह बेटा छुआर निराशी ना खड़ाई ने काम है हां वो जरे ना उड़ो ही निकल गए क्यों सभी सरवर गया ओ क्यों निकल गए सरवर वाले पास ही गया भाई ओ क्यों गया पाए सब्जी ले पे ना से हुई हो गए ना टोरा फेरा लामन ने ना तेरा देखण मैं कि मैं जुलवा मैं को तू ना जो जेवा साडे को घरों को पे खाते मैं के चलो मुंडा दा शगीर दे कारीगर ए शगीर तो बैठे हुई था शगीर के सारा काम ते हाजरी ले सुनता वाला काम करे आपको तो भक्त है आई छोरे काम सीखदा है तेरी खट्टी गुम्मा दा तू यारी छोटा बाल है ते को लकड़ दा काम सीख लेंदे हैं ना कार ना काम सीख लेंदे हैं या मोटरसाइकिल ना काम सीख लेंदे हैं
इलेक्ट्रिशियन ना काम फायदा इसमें
इलेक्ट्रिशियन बिजली दा
कार है ना
ठीक है इलेक्ट्रिशियन ओके दी रिपोर्ट है की गल ना होवे अच्छा काला बाबा सड़कदा भाई